a weird time, but I wasn't able to do it in our normal Sunday morning time slot from my perspective. Had some family stuff on over the weekend, but we're here now. And it probably worked out well because we'll be able to reflect upon what was a very enjoyable and quite hilarious, actually, debate that Zulu had the other day with Haz al Din of the American Communist Party. Before I give my thoughts, Zulu, how's it going? Now that it's been a few days since the debate, how are you? How are you feeling?
Yeah, hello. Thank you very much for having this time slot here to talk about this. Indeed, I'm feeling very good about the debate. I was feeling very good about it very early on in that debate, and throughout the debate, I just kept getting proven more and more right how right I was to get to be feeling good about it. Normally on the Remnant podcast, we like to cover the big libertarian news of like the past week or so. But thankfully this week, that I'm the big libertarian news of the week. It was my debate with Haz Aldine, and yeah, it was a total and utter destruction with the communists. They keep trying to cope. The American child predator party. They love to cope about this debate, and they're failing so hard, so hard. My big call out, even during the debate, after I got into my sort of turn in power, right? Where I started just kind of farming, I suppose, pathos, you could say. I was like, okay, well, then let's clip this. Let's clip this debate, Haz. I want everybody to come over and clip this debate. What say you, Haz? And, during the debate, he didn't quite have the muscular fortitude to tell people to clip it during the debate. But now, I've been so heavy on this that, they can't just stand up a challenge like this. They've got to try and clip this thing. And, it turned into, like, kind of that, if anybody's seen Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where, this character called Mac and another one called D are, trying to track down, like, a guy who, like, shushed them at a bar, and they're like trying to track him down. They find his Facebook page. It's like, oh, it turns out the guy with the Facebook page, it was actually his ex-girlfriend, and she was trying to like defame him because he posted revenge pornography of her. And the character Mac was like, oh my god, that's horrible, posting pictures of you online. Where are these pictures? Oh my god, that's terrible. But which websites in particular? That type of thing. I think that's the character of our response to these people so far. Has destroyed me. It certainly has destroyed me. But which specific timestamps did Has destroy me at? That's, I think, the correct character for somebody to have after a debate. It's very clear that these people don't have anything. They are scraping the bottom of the barrel for any kind of response they can get. So I think that pretty much sums up my my analysis of that debate.
Yeah, the one clip I have seen floating around is where they tried to accuse you of lying because you said, "Oh, I haven't said the word free in like the past hour or so,"
Mhm.
and then they like roll back the clip to like some point where you said free, which first of all I'm not even sure was within an hour,
I want to be clear about the
but second of
context
all,
there. I was talking about free as in freedom, because Has had a completely different understanding of what a free act was. He was defining it specifically as an action which is like historically significant at one of these historically significant turning points. It's like, okay, well, I'm not talking about the free acts. I told you that an hour ago. I'm not talking about the free acts. And they're like, oh, but you're talking about free will here. It's like, yeah, I mean, I'm speaking English here. Like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to just allow Has to poison the entire language? Like, no, he had a specific proprietary definition of a free act, and I was not using that word to describe that any longer. I was describing it as chosen act. I'm still going to say the word free will, because we had no determination on the term free will at all in the debate.
Yeah, so that was just, yeah, obviously them just completely equivocating on what you were referring to. But I just found it. Um, I had a couple of thoughts on the debate, as far as the substance or what there was of it. And it's not your fault, but there was very little in the way of substantive kind of, you know, dialogue or back and forth, because Has refuses to concede on or admit that he was a materialist very very early in the debate, which I found quite funny. But um, it seemed like Haz's view was basically that human beings can't be omnipotent because we're not. Sorry, human beings can't have free will because we're not omnipotent. Sorry, I got that back to front. Um, that was basically his view. It's that because human beings are constrained by scarcity and constrained by outside factors that mean that we can't, you know, fly or, you know, jump across the ocean or, I don't know, yeah, jump 12 feet in the air, that therefore we don't have free will. That seems to be basically his position, which is one that Murray Rothbard, I remember, criticized very, very early in Ethics of Liberty. But he was going to stick by that definition. He was going to be like, "Nah, if you can't literally do anything that you could, you know, like potentially think of doing, then clearly you don't have free will because you know nature isn't you know letting you do whatever you want to do." So it seems like that's a very, at the very least, not a very useful definition of free will if it's just going to be an impossible thing for anyone to actually accomplish because you know we're limited by scarcity and we're limited by the laws of physics, more or less. So that was my first thought. And my second thought was the entire debate was also just more or less an admission that Has doesn't know, and a lot of communists in general, and this is something I've noticed more broadly, um, is unable to assess counterfactuals. Basically, they don't have the ability to be like, they don't think about how, they don't think that reality could be different than what it currently is, more or less. They don't think that that because an alternative didn't come into being from their perspective, therefore it could never have come into being. And this is something that you notice with how they will attack capitalists, right? Or you know, modes of production, quote unquote, because from their perspective, okay, it was metaphysically given, more or less, that things were going to be produced how they were going to be produced, right? So regardless of the mode of production we had, you know, we were still going to produce all the things that are currently being produced. And so, from their perspective, they think that because it's a capitalist mode of production, it's like the capitalists are just, you know, parasitizing off of what was already going to be produced by the workers and, you know, taking their cut, so to speak, of other people's work. Of course, that completely neglects the fact that it's actually not the case that everything that has been produced was going to be produced no matter what. And it actually took a lot of risk and, at the very least, effort to arrange the factors of production such that what has been produced ended up being produced. But because they lack this ability to consider that, to them it makes no sense to say that the capitalist has an important role in production, because to them, everything was going to be produced anyway. That seems to be kind of where they're at with their economic analysis, because it's basically just failing the breakfast question over and over and over again. Don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Zulu.
You know, and the thing is, I know for a fact, like I've studied history of philosophy, of course, I know, and I reviewed my studies on the communist theory of history, the dialectical materialist process. I reviewed it, and the implication is very clear that this is an immutable process. This is entirely deterministic. I knew this, and I was just, honestly, when I was in that debate, I was expecting him to just go, "Yeah, of course, this is fully deterministic, right? There is no alternatives here. This is always going to happen." Like that's what the communists always say. Often in debate, you'll hear this. It's like, no, communism is inevitable. History is inevitable. Which, you know, the obvious question is, well, then why the fuck do you bother doing praxis then? Why do you bother if it's inevitably going to happen? Even deeper than that, it's like, okay, well, I was expecting him to just say, yeah, this is all inevitable. The march of history is inevitable. It's like, okay, And then I would have problems with that. I would have follow-ups on that. My whole thought process with this line of inquiry into free will versus determinism, my whole thought process there was, I'm just trying to build up agi. For the Austrian economics people, this is kind of like equivalent to building up capital resources for your lines of production, right? It's a Go term, where you build up agi, means that you're kind of accumulating energy through your moves. You're putting moves on the board, not because you're going to immediately necessarily act on them. You're just putting a bunch of threats on the board that you could act on and can build a nice big structure for you. I saw this initial attack as basically just generating agi for me. That was my whole strategy there. And then I could use this agi in my positive case for capitalism. It's like, oh, but you're saying that I'm just using bourgeois logic. I thought we'd get there at some point. That I'm just using bourgeois logic, you're using proletarian logic. Okay, so you're no longer allowed to use bourgeois logic. And then during my positive case for capitalism, if he ever tried to use like the law of non-contradiction, I'd be like, sorry, that's bourgeois logic. You're not allowed to use that anymore. Or if he tried to use any of the standard laws of logic, I'd be like, sorry, that's bourgeois logic right there. I thought I was just building that sort of agi there. But no, he was really like digging his heels in on this initial attack. And so I was like, okay, well, let's see how far I can take this thing. Let's see just how much I can get him to dig his heels into the dirt until he's fucking knee deep. And I'm like 10 stories above him, you know? I want to see how far I can take this thing. It was a very ludicrous debate. But I mean, honestly, if I was in his position, I don't know that I would take much of a different strategy, because maybe he foresaw, if he's good enough at debate, he might have foreseen that I was building this agi, and it would have completely ruined any sort of case he would have from there on. Which, you know, part of the communist sort of program is to lie about what you believe. He isn't able to openly state to people that he does believe that contradictions are true. He's not able to openly speak to people that he believes that Aristotle's logic is bourgeois logic and you shouldn't listen to it. He's not able to openly speak that to people. That's part of the program for them. They can't convince you. It's not available to them. Right?
100%. I want to get to a few of the hands now that a few people have arrived on stage. So let me hit up. I'll go to Michael first, and then we'll go to Yermore and then Harrow. If you are up on the stage, just make sure to pop your hand up so I know that you're ready to speak, and then we'll go from there. But Michael, welcome to the stage, man. How's it going?
Thank you so much. I'm doing pretty well. I am waiting for Friday because I'm going down to Texas to see Ron Paul, so I am very excited right now. But my question was more like, how do you keep from going crazy, like with the like almost like Mott and Bailey sort of thing that the commies pull, like with the whole labor theory of value, where they'll there's obviously like the regular labor theory of value, but then like you present something like, okay, but this, like I posted this earlier where it was like this Cheeto that was like kind of shaped like a Charizard was sold for like 89,000 or whatever, and then they retreat back to well, it's not socially necessary. It's like, well, aren't you then therefore conceding that value is subjective? I don't know how to like approach. I mean, obviously they're communists, so they're dishonest, but like, how do you even approach that?
Yeah, no, I mean, that is the correct approach. It's, well then, so you are admitting that it is subjective, i.e. socially necessary. That's what that socially necessary component does there. I'm not sure how deep they are able to do the cope on that front, because I don't argue economics much, but like that's the basic, I think that's the correct direction of the attack. It's, well, you're doing a Mott and Bailey here. You're saying that, well, on the one hand, it's value is determined by labor, and on the other hand, well, it has to be socially necessary labor. So is that not just stating the subjective theory of value? Like, what is the actual difference here? Come on, man. Also, like, you know, let's say all their value theory and everything is correct, and that's how they get to like their surplus value and everything. Another attack can go is, okay, so what? So what the capitalists are taking surplus value? And this is a line I got from Prax Ben. It's like, so what? The capitalist is taking my surplus value. What if I want them to take my surplus value? Why is that bad? Because when they use the word exploitation, all they're literally saying there is that the capitalist is taking surplus value. That's not a moral term for them. It's certainly morally loaded language, which is part of the program, of course. But on their own view, that can't be a moral term. It can't be saying that they're being immoral. So it's like, okay, well, so what if the workers are being exploited? So what? Why does that matter? Why should I fucking care about that? Why should I care that people are having their surplus value taken if this is just a purely descriptive claim you're making here? Like, why does that matter? And I think those sorts of like different prongs of attacks you can make on the communists are very effective, as we've seen.
Nice. Sorry, I've been away from my keyboard a little bit, or away from my phone, I should say. So I missed a fair bit of that, but it sounded like you guys were talking about labor theory of value, et cetera, et cetera. My basic thought on the LTV, because I used to argue with a lot of communists online, not like live debates, just like over text. And my key takeaway was basically that like no one is ever going to understand labor theory of value, because every single time I tried to pin them down on a version of it that looked like it perfectly followed or perfectly encapsulated exactly what this specific person was saying when they started describing the labor theory of value, they'd say, no, that's not right. This is right. And so it gets to a point where you're basically like, okay, this person, again, this is just a dishonesty thing. Like they're never going to be genuinely honest about what they mean, because being genuinely honest would admit conceding how ludicrous their position is on most of these topics. So they have to just keep moving the goalposts, so to speak, in order to keep the illusion up that basically like they're right and you're just a filthy capitalist that can't understand their proletarian logic, so to speak. I would also say that it seems like basically Marx very early on in Capital, as far as I can tell, and I haven't actually read it, but from what I can tell about the book, seems like Marx very, very early on realized that there was going to be an issue with just saying that labor is the source of all value because of the mud pie argument. So he gave himself an out with socially necessary labor time, which turns out is more or less, or that, you know, socially necessary, the good has to be socially necessary. And so he then imported this concept of socially necessary labor time. So basically, what Marx did was set up this whole edifice of the labor theory of value as against the subjective theory of value, and then just sneak in subjectivism in the back door by just saying, and by the way, what the value of labor is determined by whether people have a demand for it, which is just demand, which is just subjectivism, or so the subjective theory of value snuck in. So that's why you're never really going to be able to, you know, fully, in a communist mind, disprove the labor theory of value, because they always have that to fall back on. And they obviously also have the ability to just equivocate on what exactly they mean by value in any specific circumstance. Julie, did you want to jump back in at all? Did you have anything, or?
I do have a super chat to go over. From Ariel David 95 for $10 US. Thank you very much. Who's saying has materialist Hegelian subscribes to very incoherent and vague concepts. Insight into necessity is Hegelian and Marxist interpretation. Hegel argued that freedom is recognition of necessity. Yeah, I mean, this is they completely invert all these concepts. It's this is why you can't actually. They're not speaking English, right? They're speaking philosophies. It's a particular breed of philosophies. That's why when you listen to these people, don't even care to listen to like the exact words they're saying necessarily, because most of the words they say are just meant to obfuscate. It's just word sorcery. They're just trying to confuse you. Try to just listen out for whatever the key words are, whatever the thrust of it is. And whenever you aren't picking up on whatever the hidden meaning is, just ask them to clarify. Just repeat the question and be like, okay, so are you saying, like, yes or no, are you saying this thing? Like, I'm just trying to get down, like, what literally you're saying. And that's what I did for the House debate. And it was very, very effective. And then also another one from the Lacey Faye for $5 US. Thank you very much. Isn't their whole idea epistemic capture? Making knowledge seem impossible, so you have to trust the prescribed authorities to tell you what is true. Exactly correct. Yeah, the whole point, the whole program is that you have to be part of this mystic class, this mystic superclass, which is able to interpret, the word of God. And everybody else below them isn't able to interpret the word of God. They've got to follow. That's the whole program. That's the whole philosophy. So, like, makes entire sense that these, like, impossible to understand philosophers, it lines up totally with, Ayn Rand's interpretation of what their philosophy says they should do, which is funny, right? It tells you that perhaps Ayn Rand wasn't such a bad historian of philosophy as some people think she is.
Yeah, I did find myself doing that in the debate. I just, like, for most of Haz's word salad, more or less just tuning out, and as you said, just trying to pick up on, like, the key emphases that he was putting on, and use that to, in my mind, carry the conversation forward while you're obviously actually having the debate. Anyway, we should get through some more of these hands. So let me go to Yermore next, and then we'll hit up Harrow. But Yermore, welcome to the stage, man. How's it going?
Right, cheers. It's all right. It's been sunny for the past 2 days. It's quite all right. And see, you reminded me of something. See, right? He said something with like determinism we has. Okay, you reminded me because you said something like nature. You can't have control over it. Okay, and I remembered this guy on the Ask ANCAP show. He was on there. He was saying that you can't control your own body, therefore you can't own your body. I was actually kind of suspecting in the debate that it would end up being Has going, oh well, you can't control anything like that, so you don't. It's just a little wee point and quip. I had to say.
Yeah, that was a funny call, and I can't remember which episode of Ask ANCAP it was. It was probably either the last one or the one before that. Where somebody came in.
I think it was the one before.
The one before.
Sorry,
it was the one that was like 2 hours long. It's because that one guy.
Yeah. No. His basic argument was, well, you can't control literally everything about your body, therefore you don't own it, because ownership means the right to control. And I was having to explain to this guy, like, no, right to control doesn't mean you have the right to fucking turn a circle into a square at will. It doesn't mean that you have the right to turn your carrot into Hegel. It means that you shouldn't be prevented from trying to do that thing. You should be allowed to act with the stuff you own however you want, right? It doesn't mean that you are actually able to complete your action, that you're actually successful in your action. That's a whole separate question. That's outside the realm of law. But yeah, no, the guy was not getting it.
Certainly not. See, in the Ask ANCAP, the Discord, okay, he was saying something like ownership is the right to exclude others from your property. Yeah, that's what you said. And he's saying, which means total control. So he was going on this massive schizobabble, a whole like paragraph on how you don't own yourself. It's just hilarious. And you said something about the debate with Has only being like the first section of your whole preparedness. What was going to be like the lead up to that? What was going to be the arguments that would come up?
Yeah, no. So basically, I was going to build that agi there, that the whole free will determinism thing, show that he is a materialist in the sense that everybody else understands materialism to mean, or at least Ayn Rand believes materialism to be. because apparently he doesn't agree. So like I was going to build that up. Then I was going to show, okay, so then you can't say that anything's moral or immoral. That was going to be my next like stage of the attack. And then I was going to basically use, and also that you can't know that anything is true or false. You can't justify anything. You can't validate anything. It's like, okay, so then he can't show that anything is moral or immoral, and he can't justify anything as true or false. And then I was going to go into my big positive case for capitalism. Because then, whenever in my positive case for capitalism, if I got down to some space where I didn't have a great response to it, I would be able to just appeal back to like the flow and be like, well, you're saying this is immoral, but you can't say that you're not allowed to say that. Or you're saying this is false. Actually, no, you can't say that anything is true or false. You're using bourgeois logic right now. So stop doing that. That was like my whole grandiose plan for this debate. But he didn't even let me get past the building of the ADG. He tapped out immediately, which is, if he's going to tap out immediately on that, I'm gonna press the advantage as hard as I can. That's very funny.
Right, and well, I have a couple of thoughts on what's been said. First of all, I saw a lot of communists complain that you never built the positive case for capitalism. It's like, well, has let you have the floor to kick things off, and you put him on the defensive, and then he never really escaped it. So, like, why would you
Explicitly
voluntarily
so as well.
put
Like,
yourself back on?
I even
Yeah.
gave him the opportunity. Like, okay, how do you want to start this? Do you want to start this, or do you want me to start this? And he was like, well, you challenge me. And by the way, fucking 1 femtosecond after the time had elapsed, he sent me like a fucking passive aggressive like waiting message. Like, fuck off. Okay, so he's already pissed me off before the debate's already started. And then I'm like, okay, well, how do you want to do this? Do you want to start? Do you want me to start? He was like, well, you challenged me, so I guess you start. So okay, then I'll start. And then he's on the defense. He can't complain about that. I gave him the floor. If he wanted to say that, well, communism is great or capitalism is bad, then I've got to make the positive case for capitalism somehow. I gave him the opportunity, and he failed to, utilize that chance. Not sorry about that.
Yeah, so that was my first takeaway. Second takeaway was that fucking Ask ANCAP episode with that guy that was talking about you can't own your body. Genuinely one of the funniest hours of my life listening to that. I think I was driving on the way to pick up a pizza actually, and I was listening to it. It was so good. Everyone should go check it out. I might even try and grab it while someone else is talking. I might try and grab it and put it in the comments. So because I'm assuming that there'll be people that haven't heard it. But it is genuinely so funny. And it gave me an incredible clip for Liquid Zulu, no context, when you said, I think another key principle of ownership is that I should be allowed to have sex with your mother.
Yeah.
That was a very, 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 very good clip for me to use. But I mean, it was perfectly in line with what he was saying. He was basically just declaring that if you can't. So, for context, he was saying that because you can't sell your body and you can't alienate your body from like your will, you don't own it, because he thought that, and his basic contention was just that, ownership, selling is a core principle of ownership. Like in order to own something, you must be able to sell it. And he wouldn't give any justification for this whatsoever. He just declared it, and over again. By the way, just literally just kept repeating that it was a core principle of ownership that you need to be able to sell whatever you own. And then so Zulu just decided, well, yeah, and another core principle of ownership is that I can have sex with your mother. So I really enjoyed that
Not
whole
quite.
exchange.
It was that I get to rape his mother. That was the core principle of ownership.
Okay, yeah.
It's not just that I get to have sex with her. It's that I get to rape her. I'm allowed to have sex with her, especially when she doesn't want to have sex with me. That's the core principle of ownership. And he just didn't have any refutation. It's just a core principle of ownership, man.
Yeah, it was so good. I'll go to. Oh, sorry, Yomo. Are you finished, or did you want to add anything else?
I mean, I can add something. He said something on the Discord that I think is funny. I said to him to like prove his like whole argument, And he replied to like prove that talking about living things is different to talking about dead things. I'll think about it. Oh.
No, thanks for that, Yermo. Appreciate it. Let me, as I said, go to Harrow next. And then we'll hit up. You can always change your mind. So Harrow, please jump in.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, and also, were
Okay,
you the
so-
guy who did the debate review earlier?
Yeah, actually,
There you go. Everybody
that's why
check
I
that
found
out
the
in
timing
the.
of this to be funny.
Yeah, everybody check that out. I don't know, say your channel name or whatever. I haven't watched it yet, but yeah, check out. He did a debate
Oh, I
review of
appreciate it. Yeah, I'm the same account name on every platform, Hera the Owl, no spaces. And so I wanted to review it because I was watching it live, and once I realized that this was not going to be about like an ECP debate or something like that, or a debate on the NAP, and it was on free will and determinism, I immediately, and also once he started speaking in classic Marxist idea babble, turned my phone off, went to bed, and realized I wanted to make a review on that. Because I felt like I was quite familiar having, I'm familiar with where he was pulling from. I knew where he was pulling from with the Engels quote, insight into necessity from Anti-During. And to give some context for some people, what he's describing is an entirely different conception of free will. Basically, it's within the bounds of natural law. The greater that one understands the natural laws that govern their reality, the argument is that the more they're able to, I forget what I believe it's Bacon and even Rand pulls from this quote: nature to be commanded must be under something like that. If I can, if you know what I'm pulling from, nature to be commanded must be obeyed. It's pointing to something like that, but this has nothing to do with what you're speaking of. I found it incredibly frustrating during the entire debate how all these terms were being co-opted. You start with free will, for example, and then he explains what free will is in his conception. You concede that, and you say, okay, now you're discussing choice. And then he explains what true choice is, which is just entirely synonymous with free will. And so then you say, I see the domain of freedom. Now I'm discussing alternatives. And then he says, well, true alternative, I kid you not, he said the true alternative, which is just synonymous with how he was using freedom and choice now. So no matter what word you use, he's just going to use that to mean freedom again in the Marxist sense. He was entirely unable to understand what you were getting at. It was incredibly frustrating. And then beyond that, I don't know if it's the inherent collectivism, but he couldn't even understand the individual level. He was trying to grasp capacity, right? One's capacity to have what he called the free acts versus the passive acts does not explain whether in a specific individual case one is able to do a free act or a passive act, whether one has a primary irreducible choice on the matter or it's induced by some random indeterminateness. On the individual level, he's unable to say anything. He completely took a non-position on determinateness or indeterminateness. When I was tracking the flow of this debate, I would highlight across these three boards the free act domain, the passive act domain, and then what I call the meta act, the decision to go down either of those routes, based on whether he was currently subscribing to a free will argument, a determinate argument, or an indeterminate argument. And then by the end of the stream, I went through, did control, undo, and you could see it's just like flashing lights. He's constantly jumping around between determinate, indeterminate, and free will on all of them. It's incredible. It's incredible. So yeah, my question to you also, I was curious, what was the official proposition of any of the debate? I couldn't quite pick up on that. And if there wasn't one, was it completely free to pick one? Because that seems a lot of power is given to the first person to make a move there.
So, yeah. So let me pull up the actual flow here because I've got the inciting tweet. So it'll be in workflow thread. Yeah, it's this tweet by Jake Shields, which I'll throw into the chat, and I'll also I'll send it to Monhop as well, so you can put it up into the Jumbotron or whatever the fuck it's called. Yeah, it was basically this Jake Shields tweet where he was saying like, oh no, it's like fucking impossible to find anybody to defend the capitalist position against Taz. It's like I haven't been able to find anybody. It's insane. I'm trying to get somebody to debate Taz on communism versus capitalism. So that's what I took the debate as. I challenged Taz directly. I'm like, screw this fucking CTE retard. I'm going to just cut straight to the source. I don't need this fucking middleman. I'm going to cut straight to the source. I'm going to demand a fucking debate with this guy. Dak Nubbit, I got a debate with the guy, and it didn't go so well for him. As it turns out, CTE Shields, there actually are people who are able to defend the capitalist position. Crazy, right? So yeah, it was just communism versus capitalism. So that's very broad. There is no like particular like sub point or anything we got to prove. I'm just gonna try and show that capitalism is better. So I think I won by just tearing down the entire communist metaphysics and having unanswered points in the flow. Like, because I did have those unanswered points right at the beginning. I gave my very broad strokes case for capitalism. That the communists, they can't say anything immoral. Capitalism is the only thing that promotes human flourishing, yada, yada, yada. Like, I rattle off a bunch of points right at the beginning. So I've got those unanswered points in the flow, and then I show the communist metaphysics to be completely abhorrent. So, I think, the rules of debate, I win.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, sorry, Harry, did you want to jump back in?
Yeah, I wanted to jump in and say that by the end of it, he completely had to choose and was non-committal on whether he was going to take an indeterminist position or a determinist position, where there's some degree of randomness involved or it's entirely determined, because he completely threw out any notion of free will. He explicitly said, let me see if I can remember. Yeah, he said there's no sovereign subject. You are only a receptacle to a confluence of factors which one has no sovereignty or control over. It's a complete throw out of any notion of free will. So on the dichotomy between determinism and indeterminism, even though he didn't pick either of those two options, you can't have any knowledge claims or morality. So he's still in the same position, the same bind that you're going to take him to, given that he would have gone the full determinist route. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and like, I figured he would just take that, the full determinist, like, because my understanding of the standard Marxian position is that the mind is basically just, it's akin to this analogy I heard Leonard Peikoff using. It's akin to basically the smoke billowing out of a steam train, where the smoke billowing out doesn't actually have any effect on the steam train. It's just a total byproduct. And that's like the Marxian view and the materialist view of the mind. Like, I figured he would just take that, but he didn't. So I just had to keep pushing.
Well, yeah, thank you very much. I had a lot of fun watching this debate. I found these more metaphysical and epistemological debates to be kind of what I'm more interested in. So that was a lot of fun, very surprising, very different than what I expected.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you very much for coming on. By the way, I'm just about to go grab a refill of water. So if somebody else is going to come on, or if you're going to continue, I won't hear what's about to happen. So somebody else fill the air.
Sure. Sure. So I'll basically just have to start doing idio babble, but no, we'll get you can always change your mind up on the stage, and we can go from there. So please jump in, man, and we can relay what has happened to Zulu or whatever. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me fine?
Yep.
Cool. Just one quick question, like, what does agi mean, and how do you spell it?
That's a great question, and it's one that I'm not able to answer because I think I missed exactly what Zulu said when he was describing it. earlier. But basically, what he's referring to, I think, is you like establishing certain like facts or aspects of certain pre agreed upon facts in the flow of the debate to then be able to utilize when someone is like, if someone like contradicts one of them, you can draw back upon them and be like, hey, we already established this previously and you kind of agreed to it or conceded to it. And you kind of use that to demonstrate, I don't know, some inconsistency in their worldview. That's my understanding of what Zulu was talking about. But I could be wrong. It's probably definitely a question for Zulu when he gets back. Did you have anything else or?
No, I just like to hear it in context again. Like, yeah.
I am back
Zulu, are
now,
you back?
by the way. Yes.
Yeah, so he asked what agi is, and I wasn't able to give a very good answer. So I want you to, if you could explain it, that'd be awesome.
Sure. Let me just
And
pull
also,
up
how do you spell it?
AGI. I'm going to pull up the Sensei's library page for it. I sent it into chat before. I don't think you can put. I don't think you can put this in the jumbotron, unfortunately, unless somebody tweets it in response. It's basically, I think the way I understand it is basically you're just building up capital. You're building up, this positive energy on your side. Either you're building up some larger structure or you're building up these threats against the other player that you can act on in the future. Just all this extra power on your side, such that, the big case where you use it is if you're in a co-fight, which is another thing you can look at on this page. If you're in a co-fight, then you can use all this ag you've built up, all these threats you've built up, to win that co-fight. Co spelt K-O. Definitely just learn Go. If anybody doesn't understand my language, learn Go. I can teach you. I love playing Go.
In the context of debate, like, would that also include the fact that you're like not interrupted, for instance?
Yeah, well, it can be, unless you might be making mistakes whilst you're not being interrupted. Right, because you shouldn't interrupt your opponent if they're making a mistake. Let them keep going down this like path of thought where they keep making more and more mistakes and building off those mistakes, and then you just crush the whole tower of cards on them. Because then they're not building up agi, they're building up just falsehoods on top of falsehoods, and not just falsehoods, strategic falsehoods, as in things which are strategically disadvantageous to them, things that they shouldn't be saying in the debate. They might be saying those things, in which case they would be taking away from their agi. You can go back and it's like, well, didn't you say that, black people are mules earlier? And then they're just like, oh, well, fuck, if that's disadvantageous to their position.
But that, like, you think like the audience also like it. Not everyone has like that wide of a context window as maybe you have, right? So maybe like if they're like just saying like false things over and over again, and maybe like the audience doesn't catch on to everything of it,
Well, that's why you've got to, if somebody's making mistakes, you've got to come back and play against their mistake. You've got to call them out on their mistake. This is why I love Go, because you can think of it like a conversation. You each make a piece after piece after piece, right? And you can refute other opponents' moves, right? If somebody makes a move and you're like, I don't actually believe that you get all that territory. I don't believe that move. I'm going to refute that move with something I think is better. Like, this is why I go. I think it's a very good metaphor for debate.
I agree. Like, that's purely on the logos. Like, it's perfect, right? But I was like briefly in with G, like reviewing over the debate after a few days after it, and he said like he preferred your older debates where you were interrupting more, and yeah, I guess I don't have an argument, but like at least he did prefer that. Like I think there's some value to interrupting more or like saving.
There's also the point that in my older debates I was debating weaker opponents, so I would have been able to interrupt more and not get like overwhelmed. You know,
Right.
there is that aspect to it as well. Whereas, you know, if I'd constantly been trying to interrupt Has, then he could just go like, what's with you? You're just interrupting so much. You're being terrible. And then suddenly he gets a whole bunch of logos, or pathos rather.
I see. Cool.
Cool. Well, thank you for that. Let me hit up Poval next, and then we'll go to Zark, and then we'll keep things rolling. But Poval, welcome to the stage, man. How's it going? And yeah, please jump in.
Thank you for having me up here. I've been doing fantastic, and these like weekly town halls are just amazing. You guys keep doing what you're doing. At the end, after the debate, I had about an hour-long conversation with Haz when he was on stream, and I got him.
We watched
to
it in the
take a
Discord
position that
actually.
Oh, you guys were watching it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I have the clip here in the replies of the stage here, whatever this is called, this Twitter space, and I got him to take the position of free will determinist. So, I mean, what do you do against an opponent who takes a contradictory position like that? Just something that makes absolutely no sense. What are you supposed to do?
Like, you could grandstand, assuming you've built up enough agi, right? This is why agi is very important. Like, if he had done that towards the end of my debate, I'd be like, my like planned debate at very least. Like, see, these guys, they believe in contradictions, you know? They believe in contradictory positions, like being a free will determinist. They believe in contradictions. You cannot listen to what these people say. They love contradiction. They believe it down to their core. This is what these people are about. And, you know, just grandstand about it. He's a free will determinist. He's a square circle. These people can't... you can't trust a single word they say when every single word that comes out of their mouth is a contradiction. On their own premises, it's a contradiction. That's kind of the grandstanding you can do against them.
But that was it.
Thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for that. Yeah, and thanks for coming on. And be cool if I could watch that your exchange with Haz. I don't know, has it been recorded anywhere at all? Or?
It's on his VOD.
Yeah.
He has it timestamped. Yeah.
All right, cool. I'll have to check it out. Let me go to, I said Zark next, so we'll hit up Zark, and then we'll go to I'm not sure yet. I'll make up my mind while Zark's talking. Zark, please go ahead.
All right, guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. So I just want to thank Zulu for, demolishing Haas. That was very fun to watch. So first things first, I have a few little bullet points to go through. On the Jake Shields thing, I do want to point out, and I did post his tweet where he said this in the X Space comments. He only asked 3 people. So, like, he was kind of like Haas was making it sound like it was really hard and like no one was stepping up. He asked 3 people, which I just feel like that should be mentioned. But on to the actual debate, I think that the reason why he just wasn't giving a clear answer on the determinism thing is that if he were to say that, like, no, he's not a determinist, which some Marxists do take that line of approach, then, if it's not the case that communism is some inevitability, then they have to do a lot more work. Communism becomes, empirically falsifiable, and they have to deal with all the wrong predictions that Marx dealt with, and they would actually have to do something themselves. And the ACP is a very unserious party. They definitely have that this is inevitable mindset because they are not really doing any serious work to make it work. You can just see that philosophy evade their actions. But on to the actual debate, I wanted to bring up one specific clip that Zulu posted where, Zulu was just hammering him again on the, like, does an individual actually have the ability to, choose between alternatives? And Paz replied something like he allows for a relative autonomy of the superstructure with respect to the base. And that's just Marxist nonsense. And
I was gonna say nonsense when you started. I was like, that's just Marxist nonsense right there.
yeah, seriously. But I mean, the superstructure, like for those curious, the superstructure is like the laws and just things like that. I mean, I don't have time to get into all of it, but like the laws, the morality, things like that, like the overarching, I guess, superstructure. And the base is those like the relations of productions, who owns the means of productions, the classes, things like that. So he's essentially saying that he allows for some variation in laws based on even like the same means of production, and that just doesn't at all answer the question in any way. And so it just like that was just the entire debate where he was just using very precise, vague Marxist terminology that no one would know because it was disguising the fact that like he had no answer to anything.
Yeah, which is exactly why that is their, program. That's part of their program, is to not be honest. That's exactly why, because if he was honest in this debate, it would be over in like 5 minutes. Like, I would just run down the exact line of argumentation I was going to go down, and he would be like, yeah, I guess I've got no response to you. I can't say anything, even. He would make, like, well, it's like Cratylus, right? That's that ancient Greek philosopher who stopped speaking after somebody made an argument to him that, well, if you're going to be a skeptic, Cratylus, well, then your words have no meaning, so you shouldn't say anything. And then he just stopped speaking forever. It's like, yeah, he would make like Cratylus and stop speaking, because he believes that communism is inevitable, and he believes in contradictions, so he can't say anything. And he would stop speaking, and then he would lose his job, and but he doesn't want any of those things, because on some fundamental level, he does believe in the laws of Aristotle's logic. He does believe that the world is real, that he's wrong, fundamentally wrong, or else he wouldn't do any of the things that he actually does.
Yeah, that's one of the most insane ones. Just like you can't even just make coherent, like your very own propositions imply that you obey the law of non-contradiction. And like when you hammer them down, like sometimes they will say like, okay, when we say like A and not A, and there can be contradictions. And like when you actually like ask them, like, give me a real like concrete example of one of these contradictions, they are not like describing like A and not A. And so like they will sometimes acknowledge that, like, yeah, like technically this isn't a literal logical contradictions, but then they want to deny Aristotelian logic in other places as if it is. So it's just like I don't know if like I think some of them are dumb and I think some of them are dishonest and just some are the perfect mix of both.
Yeah, it's if you truly, I think I've lost most of what I was about to say there. If they truly do believe in what they say, then they won't actually say anything at all. It's a self-defeating ideology, fundamentally, unless they are just being dishonest, which is why I think they are just being dishonest.
Well, that's all I really have. We can find the next speaker.
For sure. No, thank you for that, Zark. Appreciate it as always. I seen you getting in the trenches as well with me about. I was debating with Charles Koch about collective property rights or co-ownership.
Yeah, he DMs me and he was asking me if Zulu had anything written about group ownership because he was going to write something about it because it was really making him mad that everybody was against group ownership now.
That's my course. LiquidZulu.io
There's a section of your course about it. I was going to say that.
Yeah, I linked him the section of your course and then also the debate you did with Dean because I feel like that was the one that like really got most of the people that were like I was hesitant and more opposition to you at that point too, and that was the one where you guys sort of explained like how because my big thing was like how actual arrangements that people would call group ownership, and it's kind of hard for me to imagine how we wouldn't, but I didn't have a problem with those, like how we would preserve those in a framework that was just one owner. And that was the discussion where you and Dean really walked through a lot of those examples and how you don't need a group ownership framework to preserve those. And that's, I feel like what got a lot of people. So I just linked them those two things.
Yeah, because even I believe Dean was a believer in group ownership until that debate, and then he conceded basically, because like pretty much it got down to, well, even in the most reductio case, it was, well, actually that's actually a stalemate. That's I think this needs a different concept than ownership. It's a stalemate, and he was like, okay, well, yeah, no, this concept of stalemate you've got. Like, it makes sense, right? I think that's basically how that debate went, but obviously it was quite a while ago, so I don't remember the exact flow, of course.
I did want to say as well, I don't know why this gets people so angry. Like, this whole conversation, like, I genuinely don't get it. Like, why? Because you're right, Zark. It seems like Charles was a bit bothered that a lot of people seem to hold this view with respect to ownership, that it's individual exclusively. I just don't know why that's such a big deal to people, because it's like, as Zulu has pointed out just now, like pretty much any single like arrangement or agreement that you want to come up with, you can still do with under our framework of purely individual ownership. It just takes a little bit of work to get there, rather than just declaring, okay, these people are co-owners. It's like, if a married couple wants to, have a quote unquote shared house, okay, set up a contract where that's, where you have certain penalty clauses and whatnot in place in order to make that happen. Like, it's really not that much of a problem to get around. So I don't know why people are so bothered by it exactly. I don't know if Zark, if you have any thoughts, or Zulu about that.
Yeah, I honestly, I think it's just because it's like Zulu who kind of popularized it, and they don't like Zulu. I mean, it's like it's the left wing crowd. He's called Corey fat, and just things like that. Like they don't want to give him that one. They do not want to give him that one. That's just it for me.
Yeah, I honestly, I was going to say basically the same thing. I think it's liquid Zulu derangement syndrome. If Roderick Long came up with this proof, then all of them would be fucking singing it to the high heavens. But it's the fact that I came up with it. People just do not want anybody outside of the fucking cosseted halls of the correct libertarian theorists. They don't want anybody new coming in and shaking things up. Because fundamentally, that's what I'm going to do. I am shaking things up, and suck it. Quite frankly, to all these people, I'm winning. You're losing. I'm going to keep winning. You're going to keep losing. That's all I have to say to these people. My proof is going way further than anybody else who's ever said this thing before. Even Hoppa's intimated towards this. He has indicated that this is a true thing before. I'm going way further than even fucking Hoppa with this thing. I am the fucking group property is not legitimate guy. That's me, and you can suck it if you don't like it. We're gonna win, you're gonna lose.
Only within libertarianism could people get so like angry or so like focused on this like super niche or very specific or autistic topic. This is such a libertarianism moment right now. Oh, I just want to say that.
Is that kind of like how it is in math too, or something? Like, I don't know. Or like scientists, like certain scientists are really mad at each other for like small details. This disagreement.
Yeah, 100%. No, thanks for that, Zark. Appreciate it as always. Let's hit up Western Anarchist next. Western, please jump in. Appreciate it. And yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I just wanted to circle back to the labor theory of value discussion you guys started off with, and just wanted to contribute a point on that even if, like Zulu was saying, maybe capitalists are exploiting, even if you can show that capitalists are taking excess value, so what? Well, even if the capitalists are taking excess value, you can still show that the workers are getting the full value of their product when you incorporate time preference. Because the workers, say you're working on a project, are being paid now, where the capitalist has to sell the product later on in the future, and money now is worth more than money in the future, which I just think is a good little fact to pull out of your pocket when arguing with a communist. I think Bavinck pointed that out against Marx originally.
Yeah, it's basically it's like the classic example of like, oh, I know that I can sell these logs that I got way downstream. I know I can sell them upstream at a way better price. Oh, but I got to get some people to bring them upstream. It's like, okay, well, you know, I've got some laborers here. I'm gonna, hey guys, I'm gonna pay you 10 gold pieces a piece to transport these 100 logs upstream. They get paid no matter fuck what, right? But if I get if they get it upstream and into my warehouse, and as it turns out, in the meantime, people no longer want logs anymore, they still get paid. I don't fucking get paid. I make no money off that.
Yeah, well,
I might make a massive loss on that.
Yeah, that's the risk aspect. But then people, I just like you don't see this very often in like anti-communist dialogues. People always forget the time preference aspect. And of course, Monhop, based on his name, I'm sure he can have the appreciation of a time preference.
Well, I think they are related, right? Because the reason why, you know, at least one reason why a good in the future is worth less than a good now is because, well, you don't know what the fuck's going to happen in the meantime, you know? Right? Like, that's at least one reason why it's not as important in the future, because it's like, you know, I've got fucking problems right now, bucko, but if you knew exactly how everything was going to turn out, well, maybe you'd have a much lower time preference, you know? You probably would, right?
Yeah, that's true. I think Bavinck had listed 3 reasons. It was people generally expect to be richer in the future, which could be one way or the other. What's the second one? The third one is that more roundabout production processes are more productive, and maybe this first one, the second one, did have something to do with risk. I can't remember his 3 reasons, which is embarrassing. But yeah, it would tie into it, I'm assuming. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there, give my little contribution.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely are right. Like, no matter what, it's definitely better to have the potato now than the potato 10 years from now.
Oh, it's because his 3 reasons are people the one I'm forgetting is that people tend to discount their future wants compared to present wants.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I think he didn't incorporate risk in those, but he should have. And there's a reason Bavinck's initial
to be clear,
isn't.
I'm going more on like the psychological route. So like, I'm not going pure praxeological with like the risk thing, because I'm just making like a psychological assumption. The Austrian economist
that's what Bavinck's doing too. He's just saying, in general, people have this psychology.
Yeah.
But except for the roundaboutness aspect, that was universal. And Mises and Frankfurter hated it and said he was falling into the productivity theory of interest again, which he wasn't. I don't understand why they had such a problem with that point. I think it makes perfect sense.
Don't the Misesians have like an actual like pure praxeology case for why there is such a thing as time preference? I can't remember what it is.
They have the pure time preference theory of interest. That seems to. I think that's the Misesian
There you
view.
go.
Interest in, again, to be clear, interest, the natural rate of interest or the market rate of interest, not like the state imposed one, like by a central bank, but the natural rate of interest is purely determined by, you know, the aggregate of people's time preferences in an economy or whatever.
And this term interest, actually, it's more broad. It also refers to things like profit. So it's a very broad term rather than like, say, interest on a loan or return on investment.
Because investment is broader as well, right? Because If you are putting money aside to, like, you know, build a raft.
Oh no, I just mean it
investment.
includes all of that. It
Yeah,
includes,
exactly.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure. Going back to like what your original thing about why people, you know, or you wish people talked about, you know, time preference more when criticizing Marxists. I may be incorrect about this, but I'm pretty sure that was one of Bombay Works' like original criticisms of
Oh yeah,
Marxism. To be
that's
clear,
what
I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that,
Mhm.
like, you know, one of the original economists who kind of debunked Marx was talking about, like, very explicitly was talking about time preference as being a clear, you know, issue for Marx to deal with that he hadn't dealt with in his original theory. That, and I'm pretty sure Bombay Work also had the transformation problem, which is basically, you know, Marx treated all labor as homogenous. And I think Zulu, you've even brought. I remember you doing a debate where you talked about how, like, labor is heterogeneous. Like, you can't just, you know, think of it as one massive blob where it's all just interchangeable with one another, because the labor of Stephen Hawking's is, you know, necessarily going to be different to the labor of, you know, Usain Bolt or something. They're going to be different, and they're going to have, so you can't just, you know, conglomerate them into one big blob and treat it as just labor value, like the way Marx wants to do.
Yep. Yeah, Bovrick's who I was citing.
Yeah, he's everyone who's like really interested in economics should read Barwick. He's really good.
Yeah, no, I do want to say that the
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
the has-beens in my chat are getting very annoyed at me for not commenting enough on the Jews. Why are Ancounts dodging the Jewish question? The answer I gave was, well, I mean, our theory has fuck all to do with Jews. It's irrelevant, completely irrelevant. And my reductio case was, well, why does string theory have nothing to say about Jews? Well, it has nothing to say about Jews, so it must be false. It's like, no, that's not. Newtonian mechanics. Why didn't Newton bring the Jews into that? What the fuck would the Jews have to do there? Like, what's the point? Why are you talking about Jews? Why are you talking about Jews right now? What's the point of your question? What do Jews have to do with any of this? Stop talking about the Jews. You're being an insane person right now. I hope you understand. To all the has-beens, you sound like an insane person. And, you know, I understand, like, they're like, the second that I challenged Has on this stuff, his first call out was like, everybody get in here, we need to mega boost this Zionist is saying these things. And they're like all getting pissed off, like, I can't find any evidence that this guy is a Zionist, yet more proof that he is a Zionist. How about I just don't care about it? How about that? How about that point? You know, did we forget about the fact that people might just not care about Israel? Did we forget about that one, perhaps? Is that not an option that can slot in here somewhere? Like, I just don't give a shit. I'm a jurist. You don't go to fucking Terence Tao. Terence Tao, Mr. Mathematician, the mathematician. What is your opinion on Israel? Who gives a shit? He's a mathematician. Who cares? So sorry, I just had to bring that up real quick.
You sound like Shane Killian there.
And that's a clip. That is a clip.
People are going to see that I was unmuted and think he was responding to me.
I did switch to my webcam there because I just had to really drive the emphasis home.
Okay.
No, Wes, did you have anything else, man, or we'll keep it rolling?
Gotcha. Thank you. No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right, cool. Sweet. Let me hit up who's next? Let's go Captain Pipsqueak, and then we can go to KC. Hey man, please jump in when you're ready.
Hey, am I coming through? Not too loud, not too quiet?
Yeah, you're good.
Cool. Monhop mentioned at the start that communists can't seem to understand counterfactuals, and that actually reminded me of an excellent article by Paul Graham called Mind the Gap, in which he lays out that, like, he calls it the daddy model of wealth, which I find is hilarious because it exactly describes how childish it is. And it's a model of the world where wealth simply springs from an authority, be that parents, institutions, the state, whatever. And it implies that wealth inequality is simply an error in distribution, which is, of course, why communists always propose redistribution as a solution. And I find it ironic because it reminded me that it just seems to contradict the labor theory of value, because the LTV implies that workers create value, create wealth, and the capitalists are stealing it. So even then, they can't seem to make up their minds whether or not wealth simply exists and must be redistributed to address inequality, or that workers create it and capitalists are stealing it, which is hilarious.
Yeah, so no, you're right. They take wealth as some like preordained fact, and it's just up to us to distribute it, and they don't really consider. I mean, this is something that extends beyond communists. It's basically every statist, because all statists on some level want wealth redistribution, or to take resources from one sector and put them in somewhere else. They just don't account for the incentives at play. And that is like a fatal criticism or fatal flaw in their argument, that they just refuse to acknowledge. Oh, if you start taking resources away from the productive and giving them to the non-productive, well, that shifts the incentive structure of your society away from production and towards anti-production. And that's, again, because the communist has a static and fixed view of the economy, to where it's not actually a dynamic process. It's just like these preordained productive processes that were always going to take place, and it's just a matter of who owns the factors of production, or means of production, the way they would just define it. And that is a really, really big problem for them that they don't really account for.
I got a really funny chat message from Chronic, who's saying, imagine a Marxist who's like, no, the most productive worker deserves to keep the fruits of his labor, which he's saying is basically just a hop, skip, and a jump from objectivism. Which is, yeah, if you're talking about, well, the most productive guy, he gets to take more, and the less productive guy, he deserves less. Capitalism. I wonder what does that. I wonder what system does that. It would be called capitalism, wouldn't it?
100%. Let me hit up KC next. KC, please jump in, man.
Yeah, hello? You can hear me, right?
Yep.
So, more on the labor theory of value. Like, dang.
Is that a chirp?
Yeah, the moment I got on stage, I lost my thought.
I heard a ceiling
Change the
bird.
batteries, bro.
Is that a what?
I heard your smoke alarm beeping.
Oh my gosh. Don't tell me they didn't change the batteries.
That's the second time that's happened on a Remnant podcast. I'm just going to say that much.
The second?
No.
Wait, who was the first?
The other time was when we were reviewing Eduardo hosting.
Oh, there it is again.
Oh no. The first time was when we were reviewing the debate that Divinity had with Andrew Wilson, and somebody had a chirp.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It wasn't a Remnant. This is a Remnant first. Yeah, anyway, KC, please gather. Do you remember what you were going to say, or do you want to like stay on the stage and try and remember it? Sorry to like off-foot you completely. Okay, yeah, please go ahead.
So basically, I was debating like a few communists on this one post from RTSG, and like the way I laid out examples, right? I lay up this this hypothetical scenario. Okay, if labor is the substance of value, then how do you explain examples of products losing their quote unquote exchange value, even if the production process for that hasn't actually changed at all? And they don't have any explanation. They just keep flip-flopping between definitions constantly.
Yeah, no, that's a perfectly legitimate.
I think that's a reason.
Oh, sorry. please continue. I thought you'd
And I
stop.
think that's the reason why they try to use a lot of non-colloquial language, like use value, exchange value, labor time, socially necessary labor time. I think that's why they use language like that, because it just makes it easier to deceive laymen who don't actually know what these words mean and don't actually know the definitions, so they can just keep continuously lying.
You know, it's a completely legitimate counter. The fact that yeah, what about this counterexample? What about this like literal, you know, fucking empirical counterexample of something which has the same process of production and yet lost market value? How do you answer that? And that's why they've got to go Marxism is inevitable. It's inevitable using bourgeois logic, right? That's why they've got to stick to that. And when they don't stick to that, as Zark was explaining earlier, well, no, they've got to answer these things. Like, how does that happen? How does this work under the labor theory of value? And yeah, they can't. And yes, sorry about drawing all the attention towards the ceiling bird.
But yeah, that's about all I had to say.
I've only got one thing to say about all that.
Lol.
I'm sorry. I'm I'm cracking myself up right now. uh, all right. This is very unprofessional of me. Let me hit up Kip Nuko next. Appreciate it, you for coming up, man. Please jump in and go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Moderately well.
Okay, I have a voice changer on. I apologize if that's annoying. I just value my anonymity here.
Yeah, no, you're good. I can hear you well enough.
So I have a couple questions. They kind of coincide. One of them is kind of in regards to debate tactics. I noticed that when debating like free will and determinism myself, I always come up with this argument that in the actual act of trying to argue that determinism is a valid theory, that the actual act of telling me or arguing it is an actual contradiction in terms, because in order to um, speak, so to speak, you have to accept the fact that you have the ability to speak through choice. So I was wondering if that is something that's like a valid, if that's valid, if that's something that like is, I don't know, yeah, just valid, or what your thoughts are on that.
So the way I would go with that is saying, okay, well, if determinism is true, well then you've got to, and I'll let you can always change your mind, come in after like Monhop if he's got anything to say on this, because I assume he's got something to say about this. The way I would approach that discussion is, okay, well, if you have no choices, well, then you have no choice over what you believe or what you say or anything about that, right? So then how do you go about validating any of your knowledge? Well, you can't, right? So then you don't have any knowledge, because what is knowledge? Knowledge is justified true beliefs. This is understood by everybody in philosophy, right? Everybody says knowledge is justified true belief. But you can't justify any of your beliefs if you're just always going to believe that thing. You don't have any choice over it. You have no specific means, again, chosen, of validation, right? So if you are just predetermined, then you don't have any knowledge. You have no epistemology. Because what does epistemology say? It says this is how you should orient your mind in order to gain knowledge. This is how you should choose to integrate concepts. This is how you should do all these things, right? These are epistemic norms. You can get no epistemic norms if you're deterministic. A rock has no epistemic norms. There is no rock epistemology, right? So if you have determinism, there is no epistemology, there is no knowledge at all. So it's wiped out completely. It's a self-defeating position. That's how I would approach that discussion, which, I mean, yeah, it does have the implication, then, that, I mean, if you're speaking, what are you even doing there, you know? I suppose they could say they're just determined, they're predetermined to speak those words, but they aren't actually words in the sense that anybody understands them to be, because they carry no meaning. Because what is meaning? It refers back to knowledge.
Right. I guess my concession is that, you know, the actual act, the act in itself of them trying to argue that determinism is in itself an act of contradiction, because in order for them to even speak, they need to have the presupposition that you know, this epistemology, right? Like, they cannot enact that action, they can't behave, they can't choose to use their voice to create those words in order for, like, it's a contradiction in the action itself, so it's like a null, like, argument to begin with. And so I find that, like, I don't know, that's kind of the argument that I don't see, because, like, with the with your argument with Has, he brought up like uh, the dinosaur thing, which is always, that kind of comes into my second question. I always have a problem with arguing on the basis of abstract uh, scenarios, and, you know, because they like to use the scenario that's so specific to something that, like, that corners you in this box, but the scenario was always built off of these illogical, immoral bases to begin with, and that's hard to, like, articulate without them being like, well, you lost, you could answer the argument. So what are your thoughts on how to, I've seen you do it before, but what are your coherent thoughts on how to address that kind of issue?
Could you restate that second question? I may have zoned out a little bit there.
That's okay. I always find myself, if I start debating these topics, that I get into a problem of abstract scenarios. Like, somebody will give me an abstract scenario that's always, like, weirdly super specific. For example, somebody was like, well, I mean, what about in terms of, like, capitalism? Like, what about a farmer who's stuck on a land and he can't cross? It's very whatever. And he can't, like, get the resources he needs to, like, drive anywhere because he's poor. Just something like that, like, very specific, that, like, corners you in a way that doesn't address the underlying illogical or immoral stances that it's built on. You've done this before and you've sort of, like, addressed it. So I just didn't know if you have, like, a better way of going about it.
So I think the big technique to implement is to bullet bite, is to go, yeah, I don't give a shit if somebody is pissed off. All, like, think about, here's the real thing, is think about the actual practical implication of the scenario they're suggesting. Like, for example, like, oh, what if in anarcho-capitalism, under the capitalist system, what if there's somebody who is, like, nobody is wanting to, you know, provide them any security? It's like, okay, well, let's think about that actual, what is the practical implication there? That nobody wants to do business with them, because nobody will take their money for providing security, or nobody will hire them to give them that money. Okay, so nobody wants to do business with them. That normally means they're already rotten. And they don't have any, like, loved ones who will provide for them. They don't have any friends. Literally nobody on Earth wants to provide them with anything to provide them security. And it's like, well, what about them? It's like, okay, so are we going to base our ethics, our legal system, upon the most rotten individual you can imagine? Because this would have to be the most rotten individual you could imagine. They would have to be. Right? That's what it would take to get into that situation. And that's kind of how you can untangle those sorts of reductions ad absurdum. Those sorts of scenarios.
I think that they would be like, no, they just don't. They're like racist against them, or they hate them purely for no reason whatsoever. Like they just kind of build off of this to try to get you stuck in this like immoral wormhole. And I just that's how I kind of find myself getting into these arguments. So
yeah, and then eventually it terminates into like, you know, biting the bullet. Like, well, ultimately, I'm speaking about what the proper ethics is. Is it logically possible for somebody to be hated for entirely arbitrary reasons in a society which I'm arguing is logical? You know, in this anarcho-capitalist society where everybody's anarcho-capitalist, everybody's super rational, and somehow, you know, the fucking neurons all fire off randomly in everybody, and they all just hate this person for no reason in particular. Is that logically possible? Perhaps. But I just don't care about that. That's not physically possible. It's not logistically possible. You can go down that route. Or even,
yeah,
you know, maybe this person didn't do anything wrong, and everybody in the local area, at the very least, they just hate this person. It's like, yeah, that would be bad if everybody just randomly hated this local person, and then somebody killed them and nobody cared about it. That would be bad. I'm saying that that would be bad. But as an anarcho-capitalist, I'm saying that that would be bad. This is all I'm saying as an anarcho-capitalist. We're not prescribing some like magic spell that can take over society and make sure that no bad ever happens. No anarcho-capitalist is ever saying that.
fair enough. Okay, cool. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
All right, we'll go to You Can Always Change Your Mind, and then we'll go to Totem next. But You Can Always Change Your Mind. Please jump in, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I heard Liquid Zulu say like knowledge is justified through belief. And not like every philosopher agrees. Well, I strongly disagree on that. Like any belief rests on like direct knowledge. Like that's where we're starting. Like the conceptual hierarchy, I think it's broken here. Knowledge you gain directly through perception. Also, like you can know a rock, but you can't like believe a rock. You know, you hold the context of a rock.
It's like what part of justified true belief are you disagreeing with?
Like that is belief, that you can reduce knowledge to belief. That's the first one, at least.
Well, you can't reduce it just to belief. It has to be true belief, which relates back to your theory of knowledge.
Yeah, but like when you're the first thing you do, like as a child, right? You're not believing. You're just seeing the world. That's how you know the world. You're just seeing it directly.
Right, but you don't have knowledge yet. You have perhaps yeah. I don't know the correct hierarchy there. That's just what I've heard.
Like
justified true belief.
When you're seeing a rock, right? You're knowing the rock. I mean, I don't know.
Well, you can see the rock. You're perceiving the rock, certainly. You're definitely seeing the rock. Generally, knowledge, I think. I don't know. It seems higher level to me. I don't have a strong opinion on this.
Can't know anything.
I don't have a strong opinion on this. Maybe you're right. I don't know. What is the correct arrangement of these concepts in your view?
Like I would think like belief would actually rest upon law knowledge instead. Like in order to believe something, you'd have to have evidence to know in order to believe anything. Like you have evidence pointing toward it, but like it's not conclusive, so it's not certain.
I wouldn't say that's true. I think, well, like I could genuinely believe that there's like a teacup floating
or orbiting the sun in between Saturn and Jupiter or something. It doesn't mean it doesn't even have any evidence for it, but I could come to a genuine belief that it is so.
Yeah, that would be delusion, but yes, suppose
It would be,
also
yeah, it would be a delusional belief. I agree, but nonetheless, it wouldn't be. It would suggest that belief is prior to any kind of evidence, right? At least in that case.
yeah, sure. In that case, yeah, I wouldn't say like, yeah, right. I guess I need to think more about that. I had more to say too. Like, if you still want to talk about that, that's fine. But I had something else also like noted down. When
Yeah,
it comes
sure.
to like group property, but that because I brought it up in the Ayn Rand conference Europe, but that made me write like 4 paragraphs related to that. So like maybe
just go, man.
I mean,
Go for it. Go for it.
yeah,
Go
yeah,
for
I
it.
can go for it. Like at least the first one.
I do want to
So,
just
like-
interject.
Yeah.
Kisukalat in chat is perhaps giving the correct concept here. Acknowledgement. You might acknowledge that there is a rock there. You might acknowledge that there is a tree there. You don't. That's not necessarily knowledge, you know. Yet.
It's knowledge in the word. I don't know.
Well, not
Acknowledge.
necessarily. I think that acknowledge might be another concept introduced here.
I'll just say like the ecopsych people, they hold knowledge to start with perception.
Well, also the
and
ecopsych
conception.
people tell me that the fucking baseball batter isn't doing any computation when he sees where the fucking ball is going. Like nonsense.
Okay, I mean, I'll personally want to like look into their arguments, but I see like there's like something funky there, or like it seems like it.
Definitely trigonometry.
It's very
Definitely. At the
different.
very least, trigonometry.
Maybe I don't know.
At the
Sure.
very
I see
least.
what you mean. I see what you mean, at least. Right, because like that's how computers work. But yeah, regarding like Ayn Rand conference, like I was in the question period, like questioning some stuff there said, and I showed like the contradiction of group property to them, and they said like you could like sell the house, but then I asked like what if they disagree, and like they had no response to that. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's the. I'm assuming you're talking about like the contract theory of property there. Like, yeah, just sell the house to like 5 people at once. It's like, no, that's taking contracts as being more fundamental than property, right?
Yeah, like, and yeah, so like who would have the right there? Like it's like so someone would have to be like the one saying like you have to. Sorry, yeah. Yeah, there was something else there too. Like they talked about the Iran war, like Yaron Brook, of course, talking about the Iran war and how it's like a good war. They gave some good arguments as to why like the Iran's government needs it shouldn't exist, and of course I agree as a libertarian. Yeah. And they get some arguments that why would like a jihadist be worried about like mutually assured destruction like when it comes to nukes? And they argue like it would be different with communists or any other ideology, basically because of their faith. So yeah, sort of fair, I guess. But then I asked Yaron on the means to fund the war, like the taxes and the inflation, which he said was bad. Like I asked him and he said, yeah, it's bad. And I asked like, isn't that like a means ends disintegration? And he like disagreed and said basically you have to ignore the context. Basically, that's basically what he said of how it's funded.
Well, I mean, yeah, because Yaron Brook is not a particularly impressive philosopher. Is Yaron Brook even a philosopher? Does he even count himself as a philosopher?
No, it doesn't. And he told us like the training got on stage to be a philosopher, or not philosopher, but to be what he is today. He said like basically for like almost like 20 years, or like at least many years, he basically only studied Opar, like reading passages over and over again from Opar. I mean,
That's like genuinely like what people say about reading the Bible. It's like- no, I would most accurately describe Yaron Brook as like Bibi Netanyahu's cock polisher or something. I think that's a more accurate description than philosopher.
yeah. Yeah. There, I would also like to say like there were like a dozen like either ANCAPs or ANCAP like curious people who are like open to your idea, which were very nice. Like all of them were like either teenagers, like late teenagers, or like early 20s. So that's very good to see. And there was one from the Zulu server. He hasn't posted that much. It was nice to meet someone who is a fan of Zulu there. And yeah, also like everyone there was like very lively characters. Everyone definitely recommend like most of you like to apply for a scholarship there, because they will either at Ayn Rand Con Europe if you're in Europe, or Ayn Rand Con USA if you're in the United States. I guess maybe like they can cover travel because there were some people from like Israel or whatever coming there to Ayn Rand Con Europe, even from the United States. I think some of them had like scholarships. Like they will cover like most of your travel expenses if you apply for it and they approve for you. And you'll pay much less for a conference. I paid like under $50 total to them, and like it went a little bit over like the travel costs, but it was maybe like $50 more. Yeah, so like $200 I needed to like do all this, and it was pretty amazing. Like
I would say
everyone there
also
was like,
avoid Yalcon if you're not in the US, because I tried to get my money back from them, the repayment. They never fucking gave it to me, assuming because I don't have a US bank account. And they said, no, we gave it to you. We gave it to you. And they never gave it to me. So fuck y'all. Fuck Young Americans for Liberty.
Yeah, fuck them hard.
Yeah, they give me like the money back, like the $700 back, like in June, I think. I'll update you on that if that goes well or not.
Nah, sweet as, man. Well, thanks for that. Before I go to the other hand, I do have the one and only Chronic, aka Superboy Boys, aka Nikolai Pavkovich, aka the inventor of the arrow of regression up here. So we want to go to him and get his thoughts, and then I promise we'll go back to the rest of the speakers. But Chronic, how's it going, man?
I'm doing
Thanks for coming up.
Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay,
You are audible.
I just
Please
came
go
here
ahead.
to give everyone a brief epistemology lecture because I had this thought, and I shared it with Zulu the other night. But basically, when we're talking about epistemology, we're not specifically talking about exactly what is out there. We're talking about the relationship between what is in our head and what was out there. Like, how do we get knowledge of what is out there, right? And so we need to separate the idea of like I'm going to be it's going to sound a bit Kantian, but you have to bear with me, right? What the thing is, right? And what we know about it, right? The claims we make about the thing, right? So like if you have a true claim about an object, that has to be evaluated separately or like in relation to the object itself, not as like an identical thing. It's not intrinsic, right? Your knowledge of an object is not intrinsic to the object, but it's not intrinsic to you. It's objective, right? This is what we are as objectivists. We identify this relationship, right? And so when we talk about claims with regards to objects, there's actually like 4 positions by which any claim can occupy. It could be confirmed, which is that all alternative claims regarding this topic have been excluded, right? So like, for instance, like let's, an easy one is like the existence axiom, right? If you claim existence exists, all alternative possibilities regarding the topic of existence have been excluded by the evidence, right? The evidence that is available to you, right? And then you can make claims that are possible or like justified. For instance, like the evidence you have available to you supports this claim, right? So, for instance, let's say you're a detective, you're doing a murder investigation, and you have discovered evidence that the suspect is male, right? And that's the only evidence you have at the moment, right? So it is possible for you to say the murderer is my father, right? That is the only evidence you have. It is one of the available possibilities to you in the whole set of claims that is potentially justifiable right now. But obviously, you're going to collect a significant amount of evidence, which will hopefully exonerate your father, right? Which is going to be in the fourth category of rejected, right? Rejected is this claim is disqualified by the evidence. Like the evidence does not allow this claim, right? And then the third category there is unjustified. So this is like claims that are not contradicted by the evidence, but there is no evidence which supports them, right? So this all undisprovable theories end up in this third category. So for instance, like last Thursdayism, which is like actually last Thursdayism can be moved into the rejected category, but just give me a second. So like someone might claim, all evidence that the universe existed beyond last Thursday was created last Thursday by God, right? And there's no way to disprove this without invoking like the law of the existence axiom, or like the idea that the universe coming into existence violates the existence axiom, right? But assuming you don't invoke that, the fact that you can't find any evidence that the universe was not created last Thursday, because all of it was created last Thursday, is unjustified, right? This whole theory, there's nothing which serves as evidence towards this theory, so it's unjustified to make this claim, right? And so, what we talk about when we say justified true beliefs, basically we mean like this is a belief for which the available evidence supports this to the exclusion of all other beliefs about this topic, right? So that's just my spiel. I wanted everyone to listen to me yapping, and I hope that was insightful.
No, we always appreciate an impromptu epistemology lesson on the Remnant. So thanks for that, Chronic. Please feel free to stick around on the stage as another co-host if you wish to. Anyway, I want to hit up Toten
I just
next.
want to comment
Oh,
on
sorry.
that.
Yeah,
Like,
go ahead, real quick.
Say like it's more like a justified true proposition instead.
I don't think there's any distinction, right? Because like any statement you make about the world it can be reduced as a claim, right? So like even like perceptual information. Okay, so I get as objectivists, we believe like we take perceptual information as the given, right? You get perceptual information. That is not a claim, right? That's just what you get as raw data is what you see, what you hear, all of your sensory information, right? But then if you make a claim about your sensory information, at that point you're immediately like saying, okay, so like I see a curtain, right? That is a claim about the data you're receiving. And you could even be wrong about that because it could be a very convincing like optical illusion, right? But like the moment you are making statements about the things you're seeing, you're making claims, you're making propositions, these are things that can be evaluated. But you couldn't say, like I'm struggling to even phrase a sentence that's like only like sensory in nature, right? Like that isn't a claim, right? About things, right? Like
blue.
I'm perceiving of photons that make me think there's a curtain, like that. Yeah, like there you go. That's a claim, right? A claim about my perceptual faculty.
Cool.
I love how Chronic just kept plowing through as Zulu like just started spurging out on mic.
I didn't even see him on stream. I minimized it to get my Windows laptop so I could actually join the spaces without getting kicked.
That's so funny. Oh, fucking hell. This has been such a funny Remnant podcast so far. All right, let me, since Toten has been waiting such a long time, I want to get him up here. Toten, thanks for being so patient with me, man. And please go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, my first thing I was going to talk about, because it was brought up, and I was just having like a debate about it earlier, was the whole like justification of belief and knowledge and like the relationship between those things. The debunk or the gotcha of objectivism that this guy was bringing up was the Gettier's clock, where it's like you look at a clock and you see 3:50, the clock broke 12 hours ago. And basically what I was trying to say is that knowledge isn't justified true belief. It's actually non-accidental justified true belief. Specifically that the let me figure out how to say this correctly. Like you aren't just randomly seeing something that is true, but the actual cause behind the belief is the same thing that made it true in reality.
Well, so
Does that make sense?
I think on Chronic's language, depending on what specifically the claim is. If the claim is it is 3:30, well, that would be potentially not actually a justified belief because it's a broken clock, right? But it is a true belief, certainly. So the question is whether it's what specifically the claim is. Is the claim this is a working clock? Look, I can check it with other sources. It is currently 3:30. So this is a working clock. Therefore, like if that's the claim, then yeah, it wouldn't be a true belief. But if the claim is it is 3:30, then that would be a true belief.
So like there's an interesting interplay here between like the truth and like true claims, right? So for instance, I had this interesting thought when I was talking about this with Zulu in DMs, right? So like there's the idea of like extraterrestrial life, right? Alien life, right? It could be the case that there's alien life out there, but of the body of evidence that humanity has accumulated, there is no like positive case that there's alien life, like in a specific sense. There are people who make heuristic arguments, like given that life arose on conditions of the Earth-like planet in its primordial state, and that there are planets like that in the rest of the universe, then it's like likely that alien life has arisen. But the thing is, even that claim rests on an unjustified like idea of like, well, is like what are the specific events that happen on Earth, and how often do those occur? Maybe it only happens once per like universe set of planets like Earth, right? And in that case, you'd still have only one like planet. So like there's all of the speculation regarding alien life. It rests on a non-evidenced speculations, right? And that in that sense, also like speculating about alien life is unjustified.
How does life come about? Because we only have one example.
Yeah,
it might be the case that alien life could come about on Jupiter.
Exactly. So the thing is, it's unjustified to say that there is no alien life in the universe. It's also unjustified to say that there is alien life in the rest of the universe, right? It's just a space of knowledge that we have not looked at, and so claims about it are they're epistemically in this weird space of like
arbitrary.
We don't know. So we can't say that this is an incorrect claim yet, right? There's like there are certain justified speculations you can make, right? Like this planet, if this was true, this planet would be a good place for life to arise if this theory of how life arises is true, right? You can make those claims, but we just don't know enough about abiogenesis, the origins of life, all of these things to actually like make justified claims about that.
What I was trying to get at specifically is that there is sort of teleology between how you're actually getting the information and whether it's actually true or not. And so it's like you can have a cause to your belief that you saw the clock and it was 3:50, but the right cause would be that the clock is actually functioning in excellence and produces the truth as it's supposed to tell time.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like when we're talking about like chains of knowledge, or I guess like chains of dependence of knowledge. So for instance, like this is true of any instrumentation, right? So let's say I think Ayn Rand in her essay or like her speech, Philosophy Who Needs It, right? Like her first example, she talks about an astronaut. He looks at instrumentation, but he asks him, how can he trust his instruments? And this is her commentary on like the sense perception. Like you need to trust your sensory instruments before you can, right? Like be sure that they are telling you the truth, right? But when we're talking about exterior instruments, by understanding the nature of the object, you can make very precise claims about what it is telling you, right? So when you look at a clock and you say it is 3:30 because the clock says it's 3:30, you have to you're making a very, very, very specific claim, which is like the clock has a mechanism inside it which is ticking, and given that the mechanism is functional to the precision it needs to be, it is 3:30, right? That's like the expanded brackets of that claim, right? And if you're wrong, the mechanism is functioning, then that's an untrue claim. But you know what I mean. You know the rest. I'm Joe Biden today. Okay, leave me alone.
Yeah. Okay, I had one more question, if that's all right, unless you have more to expand on.
No, I'm probably gonna leave this space before my PC crashes and like curses me to hell or something. I'm just gonna listen on the stream from now on. See you guys. I had my lecture.
Sure.
I'm out of here.
Bye, Chronic.
See you.
All right. So it was a question for Zulu. Do you have any other alcohol recommendations besides Birds and the Bees, or any other like specifically beers that you go for?
Zulu must not be here because I've never known him to not want to talk about alcohol.
It's okay. I can super chat it as well. Also,
no, don't spend your money. Well, do spend your money. Spend all your money on Zulu, but
Don't spend your money on super chat.
out of all things to put my
Hop hates
money
Zulu
into,
confirmed.
that's one of the most valuable.
I feel like I've donated more money to fucking Zulu's super chat and his beer money than anyone else. So.
Oh, he wants to stay on the leadership board. That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't want anyone to displace. I'm like one of those Pokemon fucking simps who wants to be at the top of her leaderboard. I will say, Maker's Mark is fucking good shit. My girlfriend actually just bought me a bowl of it the other day, which is why she's my girlfriend. I'm only joking. But no, so Maker's Mark, high quality, good stuff. Beer wise, I'm Australian, as most people probably know by now, and we have like a very, obviously we have a lot of local beers, but that no one's really going to be able to get. So most of my beer recommendations are going to be useless for anyone that isn't chronic. So I don't know. Maybe Zulu DM'd me and said he was.
Beer
He said
tastes
2
like
minutes ago
piss,
he was
dude.
taking. He told me 2 minutes ago he was taking a piss. So I guess he's been drinking too much beer this
Yeah,
morning.
that's what beer tastes like, piss.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just letting people up on the stage. Sue, did you want to add anything to the conversation at all? Or Sue.
Yes. Hello.
Hey, did you want to add anything to the conversation, or are you just here to diss me for telling people not to super chat Zulu?
Yeah, the topic has changed, so I don't
Wait,
want to
you
go back
told
to
people not to super chat Zulu?
He told people to not super chat you, literally.
That's not true. That is a lie. I did not say
He
that.
actually, unironically, he used the words "don't waste your money." He
I
did
did
use
not
this
say
sentence.
that. I did not say that. That is a lie.
You did say "don't waste your money"
scandalous.
word by word.
This is a scurrilous. This is false.
Shaking my
and we have the
head.
clips. Sue's just trying to drive a wedge between the Remnant co-hosts because she's jealous of the success of this podcast.
This is what I'm doing. I've been commissioned by ARI to destroy anarcho-objectivism.
No.
Cool.
We're just debating to Zulu.
So
of all things.
Zulu, so you're actually caught up. Toten was asking for alcohol requests while you were busy taking a piss. So
perfect timing.
I would
Or
say
alcohol suggestions, I should say.
try Caolila. 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 It's very good whiskey. Also, Birds and the Bees. It's a beer from Scotland. Very good. Yeah, try those two. See if you like it, and then proceed from there. What I normally drink is Tenants. The reason I drink Tenants is very cheap. It would probably be very expensive if you're in like another country than Scotland, because they make it in Scotland. That's the reason why I drink it. It's like the cheapest beer here, but it's all right. It's obviously
On
not
the
going to be the
skeptics'
greatest
premises.
beer in the world, but like it's acceptable.
I was gonna say, on the skeptics' premises, they must try every single beer, including Bud
Yeah.
Light, to know which one is good.
Exactly.
I think I'd rather kill myself than drink
I
light beer.
will do an anecdote. Is that when I went to New Hampshire the first time, I wanted to drink some beer. I went to meet Jeremy Kaufman, and he met me in a bar, and I wanted to drink some beer, and they didn't let me drink the beer with my because I didn't have my passport on me. And he immediately said, "You know what? Fuck it. We're closing out our tab. I'm not giving you any tip." We immediately left, and that was the second where I gained a lot of respect for Jeremy Kaufman. Like, he was willing to fucking just tank that, to out of respect for me, because he was like, "Hey, look, they're disrespecting you by not allowing you to fucking do what you want. They're disrespecting you, and so I'm gonna disrespect them." And like, he just tanked that interaction, and I gained so much respect for Jeremy Kaufman right there, when this bar fucking stiffed me.
To be fair, though, like, he did take it out of like this teenager waitress, which she would be liable by a cops if she got caught. Like, she was really not like she's not the cause of whatever happened. Like, if I'm a teenager waitress, I also would be careful because I don't want to be caught by cops and then pay a fine and get fired.
But Sue,
Don't give a shit.
Consider the alternatives here. Either you can potentially get, done by the cops, or you get between a Scotsman and his alcohol. Now, I want you to
Yeah.
carefully consider which of those possible outcomes are going to be worse for you.
Fundamentally, like, what is going on here is these people are not free staters. This is not a free stater friendly bar. If it was a free stater friendly establishment, they would allow me to drink. And Jeremy Kaufman made it clear to them that free staters will not be drinking there. He made it clear to them in explicit terms that we will not be associating with you people. And now they're going to lose business. And then we went with Jeremy Kaufman, and I was able to drink very much, and I enjoyed the night very much.
That's true, but Jeremy Kaufman's bar is like not a real bar, like, right? They have some sort of agorist bar coming on. It's underground.
Well,
and
don't
secret from
mention
the
exactly what it is. But
it's like, yeah, they can afford being secret about it, but it's just like, now I think about it, like, if he had a problem, he probably should have taken with the owner of the bar instead of like going off at the teenager. Like, when I think about that event, I'm like, man, she really should have like talked with the owner of the bar instead of like some close teenager.
When I
who's
think
trying
about
to
it,
do her job.
I think about just fucking Jeremy Kaufman stood up for me. He stood up for Zulu. He stood up for me. That's all I care about. He stood up for me. He was willing to tank that social interaction.
If this isn't proof that Zulu's in bed with the Jews, then I don't know what else.
I'm in bed. I'm a loyal motherfucker. If somebody does that for me, I'm gonna be loyal to them. I'm loyal to Jeremy Kaufman to the fucking
You hear
grave.
that, guys? Zulu's loyal to the Jews.
I'm loyal to the Jews till the grave. Isle Israel.
That's a fucking clip. All right, let me hit up J Boy.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry.
I
go
have a
ahead.
question about during the Hawes debate, if he committed to determinism, what sort of line of argumentation would you have gone down?
Sure. So yeah, I can bring it up exactly. I've got the notes here. So like I think my let me see here. I want to be accurate here. you know? So yeah, no, I think the basic idea was if he goes for determinism, well then there are no alternatives. So then he's got to believe whatever the hell he believes. And I've got to believe whatever the hell I believe. Because I'm a capitalist. I'm a dirty capitalist. I'm always going to be a capitalist. I've got to believe whatever the hell I believe. Right? And he's got... And this also applies to the communist. Right? And I was going to throw that at him and see if he would get some sort of like a cop-out with like, no, because I'm in the proletarian logic. So I'm the exception to the rule. And then I could push him on that. With like, okay, well, so you just believe contradictions. And then I can get that agi. But yeah, no, the basic idea is, okay, so everybody can just believe whatever... Everybody is just going to believe whatever the hell they believe. So they have no alternatives available to them. They can't justify any of their beliefs. So therefore, there is no knowledge any longer. And then I was just going to use that as agi for any of the rest of the debate, for the positive case for capitalism. Like, he can't prove anything that he believes. And I would just keep gesturing towards the camera. Like, look here, guys. He can't show anything that he believes. Haz Aldin is not able to prove a single thing that he believes on his own premises. Come on, guys. Haz believes this. This is on his own premises. Haz cannot prove a single thing that he has said. I would just do stuff like that. That was the agi I was building up there. That was the threat following on for that agi. For if he agrees with determinism. If he agrees with free will, well, it's very simple. He no longer believes in dialectical materialism. And I have quotes from Marx where he is very clearly a determinist.
Right. But is that sound reasoning that there no other alternatives, there are no other possible worlds, just the current worlds is the only possible one. Therefore, that there's no truth, there's no proving, there's no reasoning, because wouldn't people's wills then just be part of the world within it?
Well, what does a will mean?
Then
is a will just like a rock falling down a hill?
The selection process.
Selection? What does selection mean?
The selection would specifically
selection
mean
between alternatives?
Call it like a collapse of the physical state towards a given actuation.
Physical states. I notice you used a plural there. So there are alternatives.
Physical states specifically of like the brain, say like brain structure.
So there are alternatives in brain structure. You see, this is the kind of line you can run.
I'd say there's call it like a superposition of possibilities.
Superposition. What does superposition mean? It means possible states. So what does possible states mean? So alternative states. So there are alternatives.
Only in the moment of now, and then once those
right,
collapse,
and free willers agree. There is only alternatives in the moment of now. Once the alternative is selected, then it's selected.
Okay, and then there's only one causal path going back in history.
Well, only one path up until now. Right, but there is a selection.
Okay, we're there. Okay, so the point about free will wouldn't then be about so the divergence point is only a now in your view, only in the moment of now in your view.
So the alternative point is, on my view, it's on when the decision is made by a mind. On Haz's view, there are no alternatives. That's the point.
But if we're talking about quantum superposition, why would it have to be at the point of a mind? Wouldn't it be like any quantum interaction?
Where the fuck do you get quantum superposition on dialectical materialism?
I just mean in terms of, like, you were questioning my idea of selection.
No, because you were doing an interrogation from the point of view of Haz's position.
I guess that's why he was so hesitant, because he sees this problem as a physics problem, rather than
Well, no,
a
he
metaphysics
couldn't.
problem.
He couldn't see it as a physics problem. Or at least, if he does see it as a physics problem, he couldn't accept quantum superposition. Or at the very least, he would have to accept that quantum superposition is determined by the dialectical process. Like, there are no alternatives on Haas's view. There are no possible alternatives on his view.
Right. And then rather than owning up to that, he tried to stay in the, well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I get you. Thank you.
Cool. Let me hit up. I'm hoping that I'm gonna go to J Boy next because he has been waiting for a while. So J Boy, please go ahead, and then we will keep things rolling.
Hey there. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. First off, I just ordered my copy of Human Action, and it's my first time reading it. And Mises would be very proud because Prime was able to get it to me overnight for no extra cost. So I think
Fuck
that's I think that's a win for capitalism.
You're in for a long ride, brother, but it's good.
Yes.
If you
I
can
just
get
wanted to
through it.
say that, like, Zulu, I don't know, I watched your whole interview, and one thing you said after was really, kind of made a lot of sense to me, talking about how these, like, true communists, these ones that are, like, really into it, they have to hide it. They have to hide it up in the party halls, because if anyone truly, like, understood, like, what they believe, if they said what they really believed, nobody would, like, follow them because they're insane. And I think that's, like, really interesting because it totally it's why the whole strategy of just, like, the Remnant, just saying the truth, as crazy as it seems to everybody, saying the truth as loud as possible, like, completely breaks them, because they know they can't actually argue it. They can't really stand up to their truth because they have to hide their actual beliefs.
You know, exactly. Like, this is fundamentally part of the program. This is why they lie to you. This is why they hate whenever you just actually recite the things they say. When you actually recite the things they believe in plain English, they hate plain English. They hate it so much, they have to stay in philosophies, or else everybody understands exactly what they're saying, and nobody agrees with it.
Yeah, it's cool because you see that work out in real life too. Like, it's kind of silly. I have a bunch of drama going on with my fraternity right now, especially with, like, guys running for leadership next year. And the current guys in power, they keep going to these cheap tactics where they, like, get guys one off in a room and try and convince someone to not run. And I just graduated, so my friends came up to me as, like, an alumni, and they were like, why are they doing this? I'm like, you realize they know they're wrong. They know that what they say doesn't match what they do. And they know that, like, their ideas are contradictory. They can't win for real. I was like, they're like communists. I know they didn't understand but I was like, it plays out in real life. It's not just philosophy. It really is real. And this sort of thing really does help you live your life. It's crazy.
You know, definitely. Like, and you expect it to, because this is the philosophy which pervades the culture. I know the fucking canteens won't like it, but Kant won. They don't like that Kant won, but Kant did win. And Kant has pervaded the entire philosophy of the day for the past century or so. And so now people are using Kantian arguments, left, right, and center. They use those arguments, like, and that's how they're living their life. That's how they've been taught to live their life. That's what the progressive education system is teaching them to live their life as. What is the progressive education system? It's the pragmatist education system. What is the philosophy of pragmatism? Well, it comes from fucking Immanuel Kant. That's where it fucking comes from. I don't care if the Kantians don't like it. That's what it is. Like it. You won. You won, Kantians. Well done. And you don't like the world you got. Now, give us a chance. How about that one?
I'm
100%.
gonna send this clip to Joe Britton ASAP.
For sure. Joe Britton should debate me right now.
He was in chat before.
Well, that's all I had to say. I just want to say thanks so much. You've really made it like, I don't know. You've really communicated a philosophy to me in words that I've never heard anywhere else. And it's really made me take the white pill. And I was totally a doomer. And
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Like this is the thing.
Contradictions forever. Eventually comes back and their world falls in.
Like, this is the thing. Like, I was in the same position as you, where I didn't even think that philosophy is a proper profession, a proper field of study. I never thought that throughout my entire youth. Because it was just, oh, the philosophers, they just say a bunch of nonsense. I want to go into, like, something real. I want to study reality. I want to study mathematics. I want to study physics. I want to study something real, you know? But as it turns out, that's because the philosophers fucking poisoned everybody's fucking mind. The philosophers were saying nonsense. They were saying nothing. They were saying utter bullshit, completely disconnected from reality. That is true. All of my accusations against philosophy were true, but it wasn't true about philosophy as such. Right? There is this true philosophy. There is this philosophy which actually cares about reality, which actually cares about humans, which actually cares about these things. And it's called objectivism. And when you learn about it, it's a fucking mindfuck. Like, it just turns you around completely.
Hell yeah. And I'm glad we've now got frat guys in the Zyke as well. That's a nice development. Let me hit up. Oh fuck, he's no longer on stage. Let me go to Yermore next, and then we'll hit up Lee Janon once I get him back up here. But Yermore, please go ahead.
Cheers. I don't know if this is relevant because somebody put up LTV and he was talking about like use value and exchange value, and I kind of raped some commie on this. I raped him so hard he deleted his whole account. And I said
Fucking
it was like a false dichotomy because it's like no, it's dependent on like the use value in this case in their terms. I'll link it in the description. I just wanted to like I just wanted to point out I don't even know what I was going to say. It was just funny.
Sorry, I'm trying to invite a bunch of people onto the stage, but X is not cooperating with me. I'm trying to get Casimir up as a co-host as well, but anyway, people who have just joined the stage, please pop your hand up if you would like to jump in and say anything. Working on it. Casimir, what's going on? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. How's it going, man?
Perfect. It worked. It's great. I'm enjoying. I'm a bit late to the party, and I see you guys are having a lot of fun, so I decided to hop in anyway.
Yes. What did you make of the debate?
I think it went nearly perfect. I like these types of. I think it's good to have one of those debates behind your belt, one where you nail the guy on the initial start of the proposition, they waffle, and you just hammer them forever. You see Andrew Wilson doing this a lot, and I think it's very effective. So congratulations to Zulu for having won one of these against such a major opponent as well. And I think the crying will be quite intense once all the clip makers finish their job. I know the commies sort of beat us to the punch with shitty clips, but I think there's a lot of material there for just an incredible level of humiliation for that guy. Yeah, it's ugly.
I would recommend to the clip makers out there, There are two views on this stream. Has an entire, like, just full camera view, and also I have my camera on screen the whole time. So, you know, if you're making a clip, splice them together. Splice together the two streams, where it's both our cameras together, and you can make some good clips out of that.
100%. Let me hit up Legion on. Legion on, please go ahead, man. How's it going? Hope you're well.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
So I've got a few things to say, I guess. I think I don't know if you this argument was made already, or if Zulu made it at any point, but like, if dialectical materialism is true and people's beliefs are influenced by material conditions, then what conditions influence dialectical materialism? Furthermore, if that is true, then how can we even begin to validate it? Maybe if I saw dialectical materialism from bourgeoisie logic, it wouldn't be true.
Yeah, that's definitely
their
true.
argument,
yeah, that's definitely true. So the thing, yeah. Sorry, I forgot the first part of what you said.
Well, the first part, if it's true that material conditions determine how people think.
Go on.
Their beliefs.
Yeah, so if material conditions do it, like, determine what you believe, then yeah, you can't justify anything.
Yeah, and also, like, if that's also true, then how is it that we can ever reach agreement over anything, since we all have different material conditions?
Yeah, you just happen to agree, like, the material conditions just happen to coalesce.
But also, I think someone else spoke to this, but I want to share, like, experience I had, like, communists. So I was at my university, and there was, like, this communist at a booth selling books, and I just decided to just interrogate him. I wasn't trying to debate him or whatever. I asked him, like, why do you believe communism is good? And he just kept circling back, to, like, okay, oh, because the good of the people. And then I interrogate, what is the good of the people? It's communism. These people are just complete zombies, and I can't stand them.
Yeah, I mean,
no, you shouldn't be able to stand them.
That's what you get when you get this sort of person, is they've got to just state the party line. They can't go outside of the party line, because, well, what if I accidentally slip something which is supposed to just be inner party? You know, what if I accidentally slip that, yeah, we do believe in contradiction. Yeah, we do think that we have a different logic than you. Yeah, we do want to just do a violent revolution and overrule you. Which is another good point I had against Has, which is, like, I mean, fundamentally, he is not able to openly state that he does want a violent revolution, because the FBI will arrest him. I had that leverage over him, and I was going to use it if necessary.
I mean, I don't know if that much is true. I've seen a communist advocate for that, but
oh
it
no,
probably is. I don't know.
I've seen him in debate with Prax Ben, where he explicitly said, well, as the FBI would know, I am not in favor of a violent revolution. And Casimir was there as well, in fact.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's all I had to say. Thanks for the time.
Well, thank you for coming. And also, Casimir, by the way, somebody in chat asked what the imperfect part of my debate was.
I think that I would definitely force a closing statement to tie the entire logical structure together. And this is a very common failing of, like, myself in debates, so I know it quite well. I know A plus B plus C leads to D, and D is you're dead. Is like you can't justify anything. If you look at AI analysis of the debate, you will notice that it shows you, oh, the reason Has waffling and wiggling is awful is because he then cannot use that as a tool for anything else. So if you deprive him from the tool, what is the consequence? Or the consequence is that you're barely a Marxist. You don't actually believe in Hegelianism. You're waffling on everything. You don't have access to the truth, to any truth claim, in fact. And so all you do is you basically appeal to some kind of an emotion. So just like the woke scum appeal to the emotion of out-group preference, you appeal to an emotion of violence and pleasure at other people's pain, which is perhaps cooler for the kids, but it's not a real philosophy. And then he loses the argument against Pinochet doing what FBI forbids to do to him. Okay, so like he has no argument against that. So I feel like maybe that could have added a little bit of fireworks, but there was enough. Honestly, this stuff is mostly for the clip makers. However, if you're really focused on the meta of what's going on, I finish with perhaps less of the insulting and more of the this is the like hammering and the consequences at one point would have been what I would call perfection. Now, being near perfection is good enough. Producing so much material, like people got tired listening to the concessions, but I didn't, because initially I was like, yeah, he should finish the debate. It's over. He's dead. You're beating a dead horse. And then we got a better concession and another better concession. Some of the later clips are just brutal destruction. So I think it was overall worth it, but we always seek perfection. Just a little bit more, right?
I completely agree with you on the point of forcing the closing statement. If instead of me just going, okay, well then let's go, bye. If I said, okay, well let's do closing statements, then that also diffuses the one objection I saw towards me on Twitter from the monkey people, from the has-beens, has been that I ran away from the debate. It's not a very popular one. Even it's not very popular even among them. But if I said, okay, well let's do closing statements, then it immediately diffuses that. Also, on top of what you were saying, I will say, I was very lit at that point, but I will keep that in mind for future.
Yeah, I think they had another excuse, which is they were like, their people were demanding that Has interrogate you on something. And I think initially I thought it was bad that you didn't remind them of that, like tell them, hey, so that you don't complain, do you want to ask me anything? But actually, that was a mistake. So I would have made a mistake if I suggested that. Why? It's not your freaking job to do his job for him. It's not your freaking job to do an opening for him for a potential reminder that he has moves left.
Especially when I gave him that opportunity. Like, in the beginning of the debate, if you listen to it, I gave him the opportunity. I was like, okay, how do you want to do this? Do you want to start? Do you want me to start?
Yeah, exactly. And here's the key question to the monkeys, to his supporters. What's the question? What question did Zulu not answer? And there's none. He didn't ask you anything, so his fault.
Exactly correct. Exactly correct. Like, that's why I think, in my view, this is basically a perfect debate strategy from me. Like, I don't think that I could have prepared better for this debate. I don't think I could have played this better, apart from demanding the closing statement. Like, I think I was basically perfect.
W's in the chat. Let me. I want to go to Zernix next. Zernix, please jump in, man.
Yeah, a few things. Again, awesome debate. I would say one thing, Zulu did actually at some point, I forgot what he said, but he did actually almost give him an out, and he never took it. He just didn't realize he was just so obsessed with himself at the time. And for the clips and the memes, the initial, after the debate, the memes that were produced by Zulu, my lord, completely the receptacle, amazing. This is absolutely fucking hilarious. I was dying laughing.
I
And my
was
third
banned
thing
off
was
Twitter for 12 hours for calling Has a passive receptacle of my semen.
for real.
Yeah.
Some people were
dude.
happy with. Some people thought the tribute one was a bit too far.
The
I just
tribute
thought it
one was the
was
best one, though. The cum tribute that somebody
the tribute
did.
one was amazing.
I have the comment on this. I think that the Zale Zulu community is in like a stage that I described to a friend as the wild otter stage, which is where we seal club, we club the seal, and then we desecrate the corpse, which is very natural. And if you read about it, I'm talking about a real thing that happens. They play with it for hours. Okay,
That's fucked up.
yeah. Now it's fucked up what you guys are doing to Haas. At the same time, you know, I expect some growth over the next 10 years. And I think it's good to have both that and like the more intellectual memes following up. So you can definitely overdo the desecration of the corpse, but I think it has a place. It brings in the youthful energy, you know. Everybody wants to join that kind of party.
Zaki's just going through puberty. We're high testosterone at the moment. Let us have this moment.
Yeah,
and then we can
that's
go
true.
into adulthood.
I guess my third thing was to bring up here was like, so I was been thinking about this. How do really communists deal with the mysticism that Hegel, like his entire philosophy is based off of, essentially? Like, how do they kind of circumvent those implications? I just don't get it, because from their standpoint, they say they're like, you know, they're non-mystic in terms of like they don't believe in a god and whatnot. But a lot of the basis for their argument, eventually you get this like weird gap where you just have to make this like mystic leap.
So basically, they are eclectics in philosophy. They just pick out positions where it works. So they agreed with Hegel, but they didn't like his idealism. So they had to counteract his idealism. So what they did was they just went, okay, well, what is the alternative to idealism? It's materialism. So we're going to be dialectic materialists. And that's how they got to dialectic materialism. And so what is dialectic materialism? Well, it's not that, you know, the force of the mind are, you know, drawing out and forcing everything out, which, you know, Hegel is impossible to understand. That's about as, you know, clear as you could get on Hegel. It's that the forces of nature. What specific forces? The classes, right? The classes have different positions in society, and you know, it's the fucking the elites ruled over, the lords ruled over the peasants in the feudal times, and that led to some contradiction, they accuse, which led to capitalism. And then the capitalists have some contradiction with the workers, which purportedly leads to communism. And they extend this way back into primitive communism, right? That's basically what they're doing.
But so interesting enough, yeah, you say that, but yeah, when you look at like, I don't want to use this word, but like in practice, a lot of communists do have, again, like the idea of like supremacy of like the consciousness. So even within that, like, again, they believe like, you know, in the collective mind, that is like, that's the real. So they still hold like this mystic idealism, yet they kind of also reject it at the same time, which makes kind of sense, like aliens. But it's just very interesting that I was thinking about it. Like they say they reject it, but they don't really, because they still, at the end of the day, will follow it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you can I actually experienced this once. Somebody was like spreading Maoist propaganda online, some, I think, Chinese YouTube channel, and I decided to read it, and it was very fascinating read, like the intro to Maoism, because the first two chapters are like the atheist handbook. Just very basic bitch atheist positions about scientism and respecting the scientific method and pragmatism, building up society, and then and this is like the materialism section. And then after I believe chapter 2 or 3, they start with say, oh, now we have a modifier called dialectic materialism, and what follows is idealist gobbledygook, like immediately.
So interesting. It's like when I was like sitting down watching the debate, I was like, I started to realize that, yeah, like when I really interrogated it, I was like, what the fuck is actually going on? And then I was just talking to some people about it, and and it just dawned on me, yeah, it makes kind of sense on why they would do that. It's like priests, like like the scam artists, like those martial artists who will go like, well, if you touch this vagus nerve on your fucking forehead or whatever, you'll be able to do this magical shit. And they just use like complex language to kind of ease you into it, and then they just flip it right on your head where you kind of just lost and you kind of need their fucking information to even continue like understanding what's going on, to kind of force you into the dependence. That's all I have to say. Just a real realization right there.
For sure. Let's go to Griff now, and then we'll go to Weston. But Griff, welcome to the stage, man. How's it going? Please go ahead.
Good. You guys able to hear me?
Yeah.
All right. No, I wanted to bring up a point about what Zernch just said. You get all this complicated language when you go up, because I spend a lot of time, and apologize, I'm really sick, so my voice is kind of fucked up, but I spent a lot of time just debating these kind of people in real life, because I find myself fortunate enough to, despite living in bumfuck nowhere, Ohio, I get a good class of these people that are just all around that believe in just insane shit. And one of the things I've noticed just doing these debates is that you cannot let them get away with the old mystic language, the stuff that they just use to obfuscate things. And one thing I noticed was that, yeah, before it even starts, I bring down the premises of things like Aristotle's logic. Like as a point that Hoppe brought up when he was talking about how to deal with certain people. I think he was talking about a modern monetary theorist, where he said it's like you have to ask people, these kind of people, these questions almost if they're like a child. Like, how does a piece of paper make society wealthier? Like, you have to keep it that way when you run into these kind of people. So usually I'll start with something with like the law of identity, where I'll go, this is a shoe. It's not a shoe, because that wouldn't make sense. And when they start trying to get into this obfuscatory language, I just will go back. It's like, well, now you're saying the shoe's not a shoe again. And when you call them out like that, they end up feeling really stupid, and they should feel stupid when you're going against somebody who's bad faith. When you get somebody who's coming at you with all of these mystic words, you got to like ground it back in. It's like, hey, you're just saying the shoe's not a shoe, man. Like, you're just saying that the taco is a car. Like, you have got to like treat these people like you got to treat their ideas as stupid as they are, and don't let them get away with it. Like, you can't oh shit, there was another point I brought up, but it was you just can't let them get away with that. So with Haas, he wants to use all of these complicated words and all of these fucking like, he wants to use all these little tricks that he has where he could get away with saying stupid shit like, I'm a free will determinist, and then he'll go cry and say, well, it's not a binary, man. But it's like, then you just call it out and you say, you're saying the shoe's not a shoe, Haas. You're just saying the shoe's not a shoe. And I think it's just personal experience. That's just how I've been able to deal with these kind of people, from neocons to Marxists to more just any other people, is you keep these ideas like Aristotle's logic really simple. Like, keep it, the shoe is a shoe. It's not a shoe, because that wouldn't make sense. So that when they go and they engage in all this Hegelian mysticism, you can bring it back to reality and not let them get away with all that obfuscation. So that's all I had to say about that.
For sure. On that as well, and it's not just us treating them like children. And Zulu said this to Haas as well. It's like, treat me like a child and explain this to me in simple terms. And
Yeah, that too.
there's a famous Einstein quote. I think it was Einstein, where he basically said, like, if you can't explain something to a 5-year-old,
then you don't really understand it yourself.
Yeah, you don't understand it.
And like, look, obviously, a lot of these concepts, whether it's Austrian economics or just ANCAP legal theory or whatever else, like they are complex. You're not going to be able to give a 5-year-old a full understanding of the philosophy or of Austrian economics, but you should be able to simplify it in such a way that it is accurately communicated to a child. If you genuinely understand it, you should be able to explain the basic concepts behind each of these, respective beliefs.
Yeah, no,
And
absolutely.
Marxists can't do that. They could not explain their worldview in a way that a 5-year-old could understand. And
Yeah.
again, that's not to say that your entire worldview has to be understandable to a 5-year-old. It's just that the core concepts have to be identifiable and explainable. And
Yeah.
I think most of us could do that with respect to whether it's objectivism or ANCAP legal theory or Austrian economics. You could get the basic concepts and the basic underlying principles at play across to a child in a way they could understand. But I don't think Marxists could do that whatsoever.
Yeah. And probably my last point, I'll make my last point here before I go. Another thing I've noticed is that if you really understand the premises of your opponent, whether they're a Marxist or a conservative or whatnot, it's like I don't think there's any problem with pointing out their own contradictions in their philosophy. Like recently on Twitter, I've been talking about labor theory of value, and I said something simple like, "Oh, the labor theory of value presupposes that the subjective theory of value is correct." So then they'll get all upset about it, and I said, "Well, how much is the 500-foot poop tower worth? We built all that big poop tower. How much is it worth?" And they're like, "Well, no. If you read Marx Capital, Volume 1, Chapter 1, he says it's got to be useful to somebody." And I'm thinking, "Oh, so all that labor is useless unless somebody subjectively values it." And just it gets them in the circle that's really frustrating for them. But I mean, one, I think it's entertaining, but if you get other people on board, it really just demonstrates just how ludicrous these philosophies are and just how insane they are.
That's how I got that one communist to absolutely just delete his account because he said the N-word repeatedly and just enrage and seethe.
Oh yeah. Wait, hey, what was the other one? Oh shit. There was God, I can't remember. It was something other than the labor theory of value. It was he was spending all this time trying to make the point to me, no, labor theory of value is correct. And I was like, well, you believe in contradictions, yes? He's like, no. And I was like, well, I hate to tell you this about your philosophy. Like it's I don't know. It's entertaining, but I think it could work if you get these people who are just the kind of idiobabble Marxist obfuscatory types. But that's all I gotta say.
For sure. Let's go to Weston now. Weston, please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, so I've been very, very confused on borders. I've been trying to work them for a long time to see if I can come up with a solution that doesn't violate the NAP, right? And the only proper solution that I have is just the complete abolition of the state. But in the meantime, I do not see any effective praxis that doesn't violate the NAP in one way. But the one solution that I have been at least interested in, and I haven't gone through it a lot, but someone suggested this to me and I've been working through it recently, is effectively a similar to the stake your claim system, right? Where you'd stake a claim to government land to effectively use it like how we would have done it in the gold rush. And I'm just interested in your thoughts on that.
I mean, yeah, if you are staking your claim to some land, it seems analogous to me to homesteading that land. You are, going out there and trying to fence off some land. If you're going out there and, they're saying it's a national park or what have you, and you're fencing it off, well, that's perfectly legitimate.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna look further into it, but hopefully
I'll give you a
I can
hint.
come up.
You have another way to claim control over something, which is not homesteading. If that thing has owners, or you believe you can discover the owners of that thing, or you believe that you can sell it and find rightful owners to the funds that you would extract from that sale. In all such conditions, you can exercise guardianship in or trust in the same manner as you would over a bag full of money that you found on the side of the street, or like a even better example, a bag of stolen wallets.
Mhm.
So that's actually an interesting idea right there that Weston just brought up. I'm thinking right now, I mean, the US does have a mechanism of secession, for example, if we're specifically talking about the US here. I mean, I don't know what's required for secession, but you could potentially completely circumvent that and just get enough people in your state to secede. Or another interesting thing is, I'm not sure how the Native American reservation system works, because I do know they have some autonomy about how things are run. So I don't know if you could potentially make your own reservation under some type of like legal claim to it, and they would have to quote unquote respect it, and then from there you just would run your own type of thing. So I think there's something interesting to be said about that.
For sure. Did you have anything else you wanted to add, Weston, at all, or are you good?
No, I'm just gonna keep looking into it, try to theorize about how one can effectively do this properly, right? Because I think just in order to have free immigration as well, you have to at least block, the immigrants from welfare, from any effective benefits from the state, and I think that also in itself is a difficult problem to solve. But yeah.
For sure. Well, on that note, I think I'm pretty keen to wrap things up for this episode. Zulu, did you have any thoughts you wanted to add, or any kind of closing words at all?
Yeah, I'm good to wrap it up there. I'll do super chats at the end. The remaining super chats, that is. But yeah, no, thank you very much, everybody, for coming. Thank you all for implicitly, at least, supporting the Zulu Zeich, the Zulu Waffen. Thank you all.
It was predetermined that you would, though, so I'm not sure how much thanks you
It
actually
had
deserve.
to have
to be totally
happened,
honest.
but I had to have thanked you. So yeah, thank you all for coming.
There was a bit of wiggle room for him to give you thanks. So
thank you all for coming. I'll send it back off to Manhop.
Man Sharma / Monhop. Yeah, no, as Zulu said, thanks everyone for coming along. Not sure when the next episode will be. I'm actually thinking maybe as soon as next week, because next weekend, when our normal schedule would be, I'm also going to be unavailable, I believe. So anyway, I'll chat to Zulu about it at some point in the coming days, and we will get another one set up. But for the time being, thanks everyone for coming along, and I'll see you all next time.
Peace.
Zal Zulu.
Alrighty. Hopefully I didn't reveal anything too sensitive in that. Goddamn. Reveal. So. Why the fuck is this not letting me scroll up? The fuck? Scrolls right back down. I'm scrolling up incessantly. Scroll down entirely. So, the law of excluded middle requires rejecting the law of identity in order for their position to make any sense. Does proposition P equals P? If no, then ZULU. Yeah, if you reject the law of excluded middle, then you reject the law of identity. And so, then yeah, anything makes sense. It works. Like, that's the whole program here, guys. And that's from Toten Music for $5. Thank you very much. And then from the Lacey Faye for $20. Thank you very much. In terms of Marxist mysticism, I found it amusing whenever Has appealed to some satanic mentality. That and his ad hominems about the smart, moral communist and the evil, stupid, spineless capitalists. Indeed, yeah. And the AIs, they like to make me the fucking ad hominem guy, but I'm not. I'm not the ad hominem guy. Listen, guys, I'm just a chill guy. I'm just a chill guy. What's this ad hominem accusation? What's going on here? The AIs are retarded. They're retarded. I hate them. I don't care about anything they say. They've said many things about me, which are all wrong. And the Hasites, the has-beens, they keep trying to claim things about me. Oh, the has-beens. They want to claim something about me? I'll tell you about the has-beens. They support fucking pedophiles. The has-beens support pedophiles. The has-beens want there to be pedophiles in government. That's what the has-beens want. Has Aldine, his supporters, ACP, American Communist Party, they want there to be pedophiles in government. That's their support. Scott Ritter is a pedophile. Anyway, let's continue. And then from Superboy Boys for $5 Australian. Notice a non-ANCAP system would not solve the everyone in the world hates this person for their virtues problem. Who is John Galt? Indeed. Correct, correct, correct. And then another from Totem Music, BN, for $5. Thank you very much. Can you please elaborate on Kant equals Praget? I believe you. I'm aware of particulars in the philosophies, but I want to know the essentials of Kant equals Prag. Yeah, I'm a little bit drunk. So yeah. Kant to pragmatism. How do you get... What is pragmatism? It is... Well, nothing really... We can't get knowledge any longer. We can't get knowledge, so therefore we just got to do what works. That is the basic emphasis behind pragmatism. So, where do we get to here? We get to here from Kant that you can't get knowledge about the world as it is. That's how you get there. That's how you get from Kant to pragmatism. So yeah, I think we've done it all as necessary. I'm just looking at the comments here. Very funny. But yeah, definitely. Scott Ritter is a pedophile. He likes to rape children. These people, they support Scott Ritter. Scott Ritter is a pedophile who likes to rape children. And we'll see if that gets me sued. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. See you later, guys. And I'm going to be trying to stream some more. I'll be able to stream some more next week as well. And I'll see you, I suppose, when I see you. Goodbye.